I awakened a level 30 talent, Sniper God. But instead of choosing the Archer class, which was a 100% perfect match, I chose a completely unrelated class, the Shadow Assassin. Everyone thinks I'm out of my mind, but only I know that the game Apocalypse represents the will of the gods. When the game merges with reality later on, the gods will invade.
If I chose the Archer, at best, I'd only be able to trade lives with a god.
But a Shadow Assassin paired with the Sniper God talent can unleash a force where 1 + 1 is far greater than 2. Once the countdown ended, I logged back into Apocalypse. But I didn't rush off to farm monsters and level up. Instead, I headed straight for the hunter's house in the novice village. In my past life, a bored player stumbled into a conversation with this hunter by pure chance, triggering a hidden quest. He ended up getting a unique, one-of-a-kind item. Relying on that item, he eventually became one of the top 10 players in the game. Since I have that knowledge now, I'm obviously going to claim it for myself first. Right now, a huge crowd is gathered outside the hunter's house. Everyone is desperately trying to trigger the quest, but a lot of them are already starting to give up.
They've tried every trick in the book,
And some even got killed by the hunter, multiple times.
Still, no one got the quest. I pushed through the crowd and walked straight up to the hunter. I got straight to the point.
I want to buy the beast skull.
Behind his stall, the hunter stiffened, his sharp eyes locked onto me, glaring intensely. His tone was so cold, it could freeze water.
Where did you hear that from? I knew very well
That if my answer didn't satisfy him,
I would definitely taste his blade, but I wasn't afraid in the slightest. We can resurrect after all,
I said calmly.
Even if you heal me right now, it won't change anything. The hunter's face instantly grew extremely guarded. And what if I refuse? What can you possibly do to me? I can't do anything to you. I looked him in the eye. But don't you want to kill the Wolf King and get your revenge? He'll kill the Wolf King for you. In exchange, you give me the beast skull. I knew the only reason the hunter walked with a limp was because he had been ambushed by the Wolf King. Although I could never wrap my head around how a hunter capable of obtaining a beast skull, how do you think absolutely wrecked by the Wolf King of a starting village? But that doesn't matter. As long as it triggers the quest, I'm good. My words clearly struck a painful nerve. Still, he sized me up from head to toe and sneered. With your pathetic strength, you actually think you can kill the Wolf King? How I kill the Wolf King is none of your concern, I replied coolly. Within 3 days, I will bring you the Wolf King's head. In exchange, you hand over that beast skull right now. The hunter fell silent. The beast skull was something he had risked his life to obtain. He had originally hoped to use it to reach new heights, but he ended up getting blindsided by the Wolf King and lost a leg. He was completely crippled now. Holding onto the skull now was just a waste anyway. He might as well use it to finally get some revenge and vent his rage.
I can give you the beast skull, he finally said.
But don't you dare forget your promise. The next second, a system notification chimed in my ear. Ding! You have accepted the hidden quest. Slay the Wolf King. Quest description. The Wolf King ambushed the hunter, leaving him severely crippled.
Bring back the Wolf King's head to receive a handsome reward.
Quest rewards. 3,000 experience points, 30 silver coins, and 30 hunter favorability points. Quest countdown. 3 days. Please note, you have received the quest rewards in advance. If you fail to complete the quest on time, the rewards will be reclaimed. Additionally, 5 points will be deducted from all your attributes as a penalty.
The hunter dragged a wooden box out from under his bed
And solemnly handed it over. I took the wooden box. Thing. You have obtained a special item. Beast Skull. Beast Skull. Unique item. Effect 1. Blessing of the Beast. Gain an additional 5 free attribute points with each level up. Effect 2. Hunting Hour. Slay 100 monsters, or slay 1 boss to obtain 1 evolution point, to only be used on equipment or skills. The points required to evolve the same target will increase. Current evolution points, 1. Quest rewards received in advance have been locked.
Items cannot be traded, destroyed, or discarded before the quest is completed.
As expected, of a unique item.
These stats are absolutely insane.
A wave of pure excitement surged within me. I left the hunter's cabin without looking back. I took the wooden box from the hunter. This scene left quite a few players completely dumbfounded.
That guy must be hacking.
Old man, hurry up and hand over your quest. I couldn't be bothered to waste my time dealing with them. I immediately activated Shadow Walk.
My entire body melted into the shadows.
While on the move, I began studying my talents and skills. Sniper God talent. Effect 1. Ranged attacks are guaranteed to hit and deal true damage. Effect 2. For every meter of distance from the target, damage increases by 10%. It just so happens that as a Shadow Assassin, I can use energy to create shadow daggers. With this, combined with Shadow Strike, I can deal massive burst damage from extreme range. And as long as I don't break stealth, the stealth state can be maintained indefinitely.
This perfectly aligned with my initial plan.
The only downside was that Shadow Walk had a 20-second cooldown. It looks like I need to find a way to reduce the cooldown first. Just then, I suddenly noticed that the cooldown for Shadow Walk had actually finished. Normally, a standard assassin's cooldown only starts counting down after they break stealth, but I can completely wait out the cooldown while remaining in stealth. The moment I land my Shadow Strike, I can immediately slip right back into stealth. This completely maxes out my survivability. Next, I turn my attention to the Beast Skull and immediately upgraded Shadow Walk from Common Tier to Iron Tier. Iron Tier Shadow Walk, Level 1. Enter Stealth State. Shadow Strike deals an additional 120 plus 50 points of damage. Consumes 5 mana. Good thought. 18 seconds. Just by upgrading it from Common to Iron Tier, every stat of Shadow Walk got a massive boost. Looking at the slightly dimmed Beast Skull in my hand, I could barely contain my excitement. Relying on stealth, I made my way to the Boar Plains. The monsters here are at least level 5, so basically no players come here right now. I locked my eyes on a wild boar in the distance and raised my hand, throwing a shadow dagger. I could clearly feel that the moment I made my move, an invisible force helped adjust my posture, making my dagger fly faster and more accurately. This is the hidden effect of the Sniper God talent. Looking at it this way, maybe 30 meters isn't my limit at all. I only set my limit at 30 meters in the beginning, based on my past life's experiences. After all, at level 1, a player's stats aren't very high, so what I can do is pretty limited. But looking at it now, the effects of the Sniper God talent go far beyond what is written on paper. It definitely has other uses. As I was thinking, the Shadow Dagger had already flown 30 meters, precisely striking the wild boar's belly and dealing 329 damage. It's a shame it didn't crit though. Next time I can try aiming for vital spots like the eyes. With the Sniper God correction, there's a high chance it'll hit. Suddenly hit by the dagger, the wild boar in the distance immediately flew into a rage. It quickly locked onto me, lowered its head, and got ready to charge. But in the next second, it lost its target again and just stood there looking completely dazed, hiding in the shadows far away. I thought for a moment and decided to just stand still and wait for my skill cooldown. 10 seconds later, the Shadow Dagger cooldown finished, and I threw another dagger. This time, I deliberately aimed for the wild boar's eye. A weak spot strike dealing 494 damage. The wild boar, which had been lowering its head to eat grass and recover health, didn't even make a sound before instantly dropping dead. Thing, killed a level 5 wild boar, obtained 50 experience points. Killed a monster 4 levels higher. As expected, the Sniper God talent corrects my movements, allowing me to hit whatever I'm aiming at. Right now, even if I'm not a top-tier dagger master, I'm at least first class. With this discovery, I immediately adjusted my training plan. It is no exaggeration to say that I feel like I could precisely hit a wild boar from 100 meters away. Once the cool turn for Shadow Stealth ended, I entered stealth mode once again, but this time, I stood 40 meters away. Even though I'm confident I could hit the wild boar from 100 meters, there's no need to do that. If any gear drops, I still have to run over there to pick it up. Besides, 40 meters combined with a weak point attack is more than enough to one-shot a level 5 wild boar. With a flick of my wrist, the black Shadow Dagger flew out in complete silence. The wild boar, busy eating grass, had absolutely no idea that the shadow of death was already looming over it. Minus 657. The wild boar's health bars was instantly emptied, and as expected, it didn't even drop a single piece of loot. I was totally unfazed by this. I've spent 10 years grinding in Tianqi. I already knew exactly how trash this game was. Insane difficulty and garbage drop rates. Besides, I never expected these low-level mobs to drop anything decent anyway. If you want real gear, you have to hunt bosses. For now, my only job was to grind like crazy. And so, I became a total wild boar slayer, ghosting through the tall weeds, striking from the shadows. Every single strike was a one-shot. Ding! You have leveled up to level 2. You have received 5 free attribute points. The power of shadows is gathering. You've gained an extra 5 free attribute points. Beginner's Blessing activated. You've gained an extra 5 free attribute points. The sudden flood of notifications made me stop in my tracks. Even among hidden classes, there's still a clear hierarchy. With the extra attribute points from the Beginner's Gift Pack, I get a total of 20 attribute points every time I level up. That's twice what normal players get. I plan to allocate my points between agility and strength at a 2-to-1 ratio. Agility is an assassin's primary attribute, but until I get better gear, boosting my strength is the best way to increase my attack power. This time, I locked my eyes on a level 7 wild boar further away. A shadow dagger materialized in my hand. With a flick of my wrist, it flashed forward. Minus 782. The damage was way higher, but against a boar with such bloated health, it still wasn't enough for a one-shot kill. Having taken the hit, the wild boar let out a furious squeal and charged straight at me with its head down. Frowning, I immediately activated Shadow Step. My body instantly vanished from the spot. By the time the boar rammed into where I had just been standing, I was already over 10 meters away.
Once my shadow dagger came off cooldown, the low health boar was finished. Ding! You have slain a level 7 wild boar. Obtained 105 experience points. My experience bars tick forward a bit.
But I still wasn't satisfied.
Compared to taking 2 shots to kill a level 7 wild boar, I'd much rather one-shot level 5 boars. With the base experience of the latter, plus the extra bonuses, the overall efficiency is actually higher. Do I really have to go back to the village to buy a bow and arrows? I did some quick math. Honestly, that method felt totally pointless. Sure, I have the Titan talent, but even if I switch to a bow, my damage gets penalized. I could still deal some decent damage, but the moment I fail to one-shot them, I'd be forced to kite them around. It's not that I can't do it, it's just that my level is way too low right now. I'd easily get swarmed by the surrounding wild boars without enough agility. Ordinary players stand zero chance outrunning a boar with a charge skill. So instead of running around like a headless chicken, I might as well just keep my distance. To test my theory, I lined up a shot on a wild boar 80 meters away. At this distance, the boar was nothing more than a tiny speck, but I could see it, clear as day.
And I had this gut feeling that the moment I let go, it was a guaranteed hit.
A split second later, with a sharp swoosh, my black throwing dagger shot out in a straight line. As I watched, the blade began to dissolve, finally disintegrating into shadow energy and vanishing 50 meters out. I couldn't help but frown.
It looks like my stats are still too low.
I shifted my gaze to a level 6 wild boar nearby.
900 HP. Perfect. You're my next target.
Weak point hit. Minus 976. That level 6 boar, which was lazily grazing just a second ago, dropped dead instantly. The XP wasn't bad either. It would still only take a dozen or so boars to level up. This time, I dumped all my free stat points straight into agility. Just pumping strength doesn't give me enough of a damage boost anymore. Most of my damage right now comes from the burst damage of Shadow Stealth, with that flat damage bonus being absolutely crucial. In that case, I'll just skip strength entirely and stack agility instead. Just as I was busy one-shotting boars left and right, now the party was heading towards the boar plains. Hey, Brother Kun, are we really ready to fight wild boars at our level? The lowest level ones over there are level 5. Don't you worry. Our Brother Kun here has a hidden class. He's an armored warrior. One of the teammates chimed in with a grin. His defense is more than 3 times that of a regular player.
And Shashu is a divine fire priest. He can buff our attacks with holy damage, which is more than enough to pierce the wild boar's defense.
I guess you have a point. Maybe I was just overthinking it. But just as they were talking, an archer in the party suddenly pointed at a wild boar carcass in the distance and gasped, "Someone actually got here before us!"
The heavy armored warrior leading the group looked around,
completely puzzled. How come I don't see any other teams? Anyone trying to hunt these wild boars would need at least a full party.
Right as the words left his mouth,
she saw a level 6 wild boar in the distance explode with a loud bang. Not only that, but a glowing orb also dropped to the ground next to it. Judging by the icon, it was clearly a piece of equipment. The party's archer got excited.
Did that wild boar just kill itself?
He immediately rushed forward to grab the loot, but before he could even take a step, Captain Zhang yumped him back. "There's someone there." The archer looked up and saw a figure slowly materializing, but the figure vanished again in the blink of an eye. It happened so fast that he began to doubt his own eyes. When he turned back to look at his teammates, every single one of them looked like they'd just seen a ghost. Someone there? Or was it just their imagination? The heavy armored warrior turned to the party's assassin. "Is that the assassin's stealth skill?" The assassin nodded, then shook his head. "It looks like stealth. But the thing is, you can't re-enter stealth immediately after breaking it. You have to wait for the cooldown." The warrior pressed further. Then, could it be Vanish? The assassin shook his head vigorously. "No way. Vanish is an advanced skill. There's no way a player at this level could have learned it." The warrior's heart skipped a beat, turning toward the direction the figure had vanished. "I am Jiangxian. I'd love to make friends with you." By now, he had already put 2 and 2 together. The person was definitely an assassin with a hidden class. This realization made Zhang Xuan's mind race with excitement. He'd always wanted to build the top guild in Apocalypse. An expert like this was someone he couldn't afford to miss. Even as I remained in stealth, I was taken aback. So, it's him. In my past life, I had dealt with Jackson quite a lot. Since we were both medium armor warriors, we had both gone all out to compete for the top spot on the warrior leaderboard. In the end, I was the one who claimed first place, thanks to my better-suited talent.
Team Johnset again. Now,
I couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia. So much had changed. As for his attempt to recruit me, there was no way I'd say yes. But he's still someone worth keeping as an ally. With that in mind, I deactivated my stealth, looked at the friend request Zhang Xuan had sent me, and clicked accept. After exchanging a few quick pleasantries, I flatly declined their invitation to join the party. I slipped back into stealth and prepared to keep practicing. While tossing the gear I looted earlier into my inventory, I glanced at its stats. Boar leather armor, common grade. +2 constitution, +20 defense. Requires level 6. I can't wear it yet, so I'll just have to stash it for now. Not long after I left, a wild boar suddenly charged straight at Zhang Wen's team. With a loud crash, Chang Shun didn't even have time to react. The impact sent him stumbling back 3 steps, and his health bars was nearly wiped out. Fortunately, the priest in their party reacted instantly, casting a heal spell right away, instantly topping off Zhang Wen's health. Then, the priest quickly applied a mark of life to everyone in the team. The execution was absolutely flawless. The assassin archer in the party didn't waste any time either, raising their weapons and starting to deal damage. -5, -5. The fixed damage from the mark of life kept ticking away. But against the wild boar's massive health pool, this damage felt like a drop in the bucket. After a chaotic battle, Zhang Sun's team finally managed to take down that level 5 wild boar and claim victory. Meanwhile, after a few more strikes, I was getting more and more comfortable at a distance of 50 meters. Once my stats go up a bit more, I'll be able to extend my range even further. With a casual flick of my wrist, I threw a knife, instantly killing a distant wild boar. And with that, I leveled up to level 3. After dumping all 15 free attribute points straight into agility, my agility is spiked to a crazy 37 points. You have to realize, even if an ordinary assassin player dumped every single point into agility, they'd have to reach at least level 6 or 7 to get anywhere near this. Snagging that skull first was definitely the smart move. Satisfied, I think to myself that killing about 60 more wild boars will grant me another evolution point. But that probably won't be enough to evolve Shadow Sneak again, unless I run into a boss. Wait, of course! How could I forget about that? A sudden realization hits me. There's a hidden rule in Tenchi. Repeatedly slaughtering a massive number of a certain monster type within a short time will trigger their respective boss to spawn. And in the beginner village, the easiest monsters to farm are, without a doubt, slimes. If my guess is right, after all that frantic slaughtering by the players, the slime boss should be spawning any second now. Just as I'm thinking this, out of the corner of my eye, I spot Zhang Chuan's party abandoning a slime that has only 1/3 of its health left. They're dashing back toward the beginner village without even looking back. I know the boss has spawned. Without a moment's hesitation, I turn and sprint back toward the beginner village as well. This is where having 37 points of agility really pays off. I effortlessly breeze past Zhang Chuan's party, right outside the beginner village. Kala's players are charging forward in a frenzy. Move it, losers! This boss is mine! Oh, you say it's yours, so it's yours? Does it have your name written on it? This area has been claimed by Rakshasa Palace. If you don't want to die, beat it now. What kind of garbage guild thinks they can claim this spot? Taste my blade first. Right outside the village gates, an absolutely massive slime is bouncing back and forth. It's gobbling up players one by one, crunchy, and tastes just like chicken. But even that can't dampen the players' burning enthusiasm. I mean, this is the very first boss in the beginner village. It's guaranteed to drop some legendary loot. But pretty soon, players start realizing something is seriously off. Wait. Why are we doing 0 damage? On closer inspection, its defense is absolutely terrifying. It has a whopping 250 points. The Black Slime King shakes its body, completely unscathed. It keeps chasing players all over the field, like a farmer chasing down runaway radishes to munch on. Fortunately, there are plenty of players with hidden classes. Relying on their unique class advantages, they managed to squeeze out some damage. But chipping away at it bit by bit, they've actually started shaving off the Black Slime King's health pool. Even players who can't break the boss's defense have no intention of backing down. In Tenchu, there is a rule for wild boss battles. As long as no single player or team deals more than 50% of the decisive damage, the final loot will be randomly drawn among all participating players. To put it simply, anyone has a chance to get their hands on god-tier gear. Plus, this place is right outside the novice village, and players can easily respawn if they die. So everyone has absolutely nothing to fear. Seeing that the boss's health is dropped by 5%, the 7 guild leaders are so frustrated that they are frowning. They all came here aiming for the server's first kill, but if their accumulated damage isn't high enough, it'll all be for nothing. Just as everyone is plotting their own schemes, a massive damage number suddenly pops up above the Black Mud King's head. 1 time 176. Weakness attack. I'm absolutely thrilled, as expected of the S-Rank talent. God Hunter. It can even correct a predictive strike like mine. Just now, I was aiming for the Black Mud King's eye. When I threw the flying dagger, I didn't actually hold much hope. That beast hops around faster than a rabbit. With a quick twist of its body, it almost leaves after images. It's hard enough just to hit it, let alone strike a weak point. But I still hit it. This just goes to show how ridiculously overpowered the God Hunter talent is. After throwing the Shadow Dagger, I immediately activate Shadow Step. At the same time, I quickly chuck the boss's status. Giant Black Mud King. Black Iron Tier. Level 5. Health. 4,652. Attack.
350. Defense.
250. Skills: Leap, Turbid Breath. Description: born from the endless wrath of the Black Mud clans,
Passing ultimate power far exceeding that of ordinary Black Mud. This Black Mud King only spawned a few minutes ago, and with hundreds of players surrounding and attacking it, its health bars has only dropped by 5%. Yet my single strike dealt nearly 1,000 damage. At this rate, I can leave the other players far behind in just 1 minute, but I don't dare to let my guard down, because even more players are rushing over here.
and among them are elite players like the Thunderfire Legion.
According to the rules of Tianqi, if I can't deal more than 50% of the decisive damage, I can't guarantee a 100% that the loot will be mine. Right now, I can deal nearly 3,000 damage per minute.
To truly deal more than 50% of the decisive damage,
It will take at least 8 minutes. But the player count is still climbing. 8 minutes is too long. Too many things can go wrong. Besides, this is just the first boss of the beginner village. If I deal such insane damage, I'll definitely end up with a massive target on my back. The second I show my face, I'll definitely get mobbed by everyone. I'm in a bit of a tight spot here. Am I really just going to stand by and let this slip away? As I'm trying to figure things out, the crowd around me suddenly goes wild. What the hell is going on? I thought we all had a shot at the loot. Where did that insane damage number come from? Find that guy, drag him out. Otherwise, we won't get a single piece of the loot. Some players even start spamming skills at the exact spot I just vanished from, hoping to blast me to pieces while I'm still in Shadow Walk. Hiding in the shadows, a cold sweat breaks out across my back. Thank goodness, I can chain my Shadow Walk seamlessly. If not, those crazed players would have turned me to ash by now. The moment my throwing daggers come off cooldown, I strike again. A damage indicator of 1976 pops up once more. The Mud King's health bars takes a massive hit. The surrounding players stare in utter disbelief, desperately trying to hunt me down, but they all miss. The very moment I strike, I vanish right back into the shadows, waiting for my next opening. My second strike forces Lane Hao, the guild leader of the Thunderfire Legion who just rushed back, to make a decision no one saw coming. He calls his men over, whispering a few quick orders. Then, he leads his entire team away from the Mud King. The other guild leaders are left completely baffled. What is he doing? Is Lin Kao really giving up a prime opportunity to grab the boss's first kill? That's completely out of character for him. Just as they are about to go prod him for answers, he hears Lin Hao announce in a booming voice, "The Thunderfire Legion is backing off from this boss." The moment those words, Thunderfire Legion, leave his mouth, the other guild leaders are stunned. They had never heard of such a powerhouse being around before. Hearing Lin Hao's words, I can't help but smirk. He's just as decisive as I remember. As for him putting my name out there, I don't really mind. Anyway, once the first kill announcement goes up, I didn't plan on keeping my 499 hidden forever anyway. Just as the thought crossed my mind, I hurled another love you throwing dagger. Minus 976. The Black Mud King's health bars dropped another chunk. Those players camping my last known location realized I had already slipped away to a much further spot. All their efforts were completely in vain, but not all guilds were willing to back down so easily. A burly man with the name Bloodblade Yuzhan floating above his head gave a disdainful scoff. Just because he can stay stealthy, does he really think he's some kind of god? Push him out of hiding for me. The moment those words left his mouth, an arrow shot straight into the night sky, exploding into a blinding ball of light. I recognized it instantly. It was the archer's signature skill, the illuminating flare, specifically designed to counter assassins. It looks like there are indeed a few hidden experts lurking among these players. I can't afford to underestimate them, but I didn't panic one bit. Sure, the flare counters assassins, but it all comes down to skill priority. A level 1 flare can't expose a level 2 shadow step. If they are at the same level, it comes down to luck. Beyond that, you also have to look at the skill tier. My shadow step has already evolved to black iron grade. Unless a common tier flare is upgraded to level 4 or higher, there is absolutely no way it could touch me. So, other than temporarily blinding the other players, this flare was completely useless. The smug grin on Bloodblade Yuzhan's face instantly froze. Where is he? He whipped his head around to glare at the archer beside him. The archer was utterly dumbfounded too. My flare is already at level 3. How is it possible that it didn't expose a single assassin? He's definitely hacking. I glanced at the archer. This guy actually has some skills. The game has barely launched, yet he's already managed to level up his skill to level 3. But in the end, Bloodblade Yuzhan didn't waste his firepower on me. Compared to hunting me down, keeping up the attack on the Black Mud King was clearly more urgent. After all, they still hadn't dealt the crucial 50% of the total damage yet. They couldn't let their damage output stop. The spectators who were waiting for a show stood there for ages, and seeing that I still hadn't been flushed out, they simply began to mock them instead. What kind of Bloodblade Legion is this? All bark and no bite. Keep your eyes wide open and see for yourselves. Don't ever join such a useless guild again. Bloodblade Yuzhan's face flushed red with rage as he glared fiercely at the archer beside him. I couldn't care less what he thinks.
or how the other players react. Right now, all I have to do is keep pouring on the damage and lock down the loot rights. Looking at the current situation, it shouldn't be a problem. What happened to Bloodblade Vision made a lot of guild leaders realize one thing. They have absolutely no way to counter me right now, and their own damage output isn't nearly enough either. Even if they keep fighting, they won't stand a chance at getting the loot rights. If I don't get the loot rights, it's no big deal. I'll just wait for the next boss. But what they've crossed is an elusive, deadly, top-tier assassin. Once a guy like that targets you, you can kiss your peaceful days goodbye. A few guild leaders huddled together to discuss for a moment and quickly reached an agreement. They called back their members, preparing to give up on the boss. Of course, not every guild was ready to give up. They could see it too. My attacks aren't unlimited. One guild leader shouted, "Brothers, don't let him bluff you!" That 567 guy might be able to seamlessly vanish, but he still has to wait for his skill cooldowns. Let's all charge together. Let's kill this boss first. The loot rights aren't set in stone yet. That's right. If 567 wants the loot, he can't afford to be distracted by attacking us. We just need to focus on hitting the boss. Let's see what he can do to us. Like, a lot of players were instantly tempted. That actually makes sense. And what are we waiting for? Charge! Not far away, watching the battle for the first kill, Sanctuary Priestess Kyushu saw this and whispered, "Guild leader, should we give 567 a hand? To do him a favor?"
Linha shook his head.
Hold on. Even without our help, he can still secure the boss's loot rights. As the other guilds gradually gave up, one by one, the Black Mud King's health bars started dropping noticeably slower. Without those elite players, relying on solo players alone barely did any damage. Even though I didn't strike often, each slash dealt nearly 1,000 damage. But as he watched, Vinhao noticed another problem. 567 hits the weak spots every single time. Even the archers around him are singing a different tune now. This guy has got to be a world-class knife-throwing master in real life. Even if I had a custom bow, I wouldn't be half as accurate as him. Who on earth is this 567 anyway? Meanwhile, the Black Mud King is still absolutely slaughtering players. But at this stage of the game, his defense is practically unbreakable for most players. Normally, the entire starter village would have to band together and slowly chip away at his health. But since I showed up, that whole dynamic has been completely shattered. I've been dealing damage for over 4 minutes now, unleashing 12 shadow daggers back to back, and my total damage has already topped 10,000. Seeing this kind of insane damage is completely breaking the other players' minds. Are we even playing the same game? Even the guilds still fighting for the first kill are starting to realize they're in way over their heads. And sure enough, 2 more guilds have already decided to pull back and give up. They're retreating to the side, just waiting to see how things play out. They know they have 0 chance of securing the boss now, but they're still hoping for a piece of the loot. There's no way it's such a coincidence, and absolutely every single dropped item is something I can use. If I can use them, I'll probably put them up for sale. Several guild leaders have already realized this, and are frantically ordering their subordinates to scrape together all the gold they can find. For a moment, the fields outside the starter village look like a bustling marketplace. Meanwhile, the Black Mud King is still one-shotting players left and right, but I keep my rhythm, using Shadow Break to pump out massive amounts of damage. 5 minutes later, my accumulated damage has soared to 26,352. Ownership of the boss's loot is now undeniably mine. Seeing this, but the last few players who were clinging to hope completely give up on any lingering thoughts. They retreat one by one, finally walking away. With the crowd thinning out, the Black Mud King runs out of players to target. Before long, his aggro lock's dead onto me. But even he can't touch me. All he can do is leap wildly toward me the moment I strike, trying to squash an annoying eyesore like me to death. The Black Mud King is incredibly fast, leaping over 10 meters in a single bound. Upon landing, he unleashes a shockwave. That's easily enough to one-shot most players at this stage. But my attacks don't stop. With a casual flick of my wrist, I throw another dagger, striking the Black Mud King right in the eye, right after my attack. He lashed back instantly, leaping and slamming right down where I'd just been standing, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. A shockwave like that would easily send any squishy assassin straight back to the respawn point. But I was already one step ahead. I maintained my shadow steps, shifting my position in advance, and dodging the blast zone perfectly. Finally, after taking hit after hit from my flying daggers, the Black Mud King collapsed in defeat. As several glowing spheres dropped, a notification popped up. Congratulations on defeating the Black Iron Tier boss. This defeat is a server-wide first kill. You have received 3,000 experience points. Bonus rewards: 20 free attribute points and 1 skill point. 10 reputation points. You have leveled up to level 4. You receive 15 free attribute points. Hunting time activated. You have gained 1 evolution point. The players around me watched with burning envy, but the loot was already bound to me. Even if they crept closer, they wouldn't get a single thing. The rewards for this first kill were entirely mine. Feeling the burning stares from everyone around me,
I just shrugged, casually dumping all my attribute points into agility. Honestly, having 40 points of agility on a level 10 player would be considered insane. As for the evolution point, I had originally planned to use it to upgrade my shadow daggers. But after seeing a level 3 flare in action, I decided to save it to evolve my shadow steps. This first kill is about to be announced server-wide. Do you wish to hide your username? I selected no. Congratulations to player 567 for securing the first kill on the Black Iron tier boss, the Giant Mud King. Keep up the great work, players. I looked at the Mud King's corpse. There were 5 glowing loot spheres floating around it, 4 pieces of gear, and 1 skill book. This was an absolute jackpot. Just as I was marveling at how insane my luck was, Ling Hall sent me a direct message. 567, can you sell me any gear you don't need? Don't worry, I'll make sure the price is more than worth your while. I wasn't surprised by his request at all. I knew this old acquaintance of mine all too well.
In the real world, he was the heir to a multinational conglomerate,
A top-tier trust fund. Baby, he was dead set on building the #1 guild in Apocalypse.
and he poured an insane amount of time and money into making it happen. Before I was reborn,
The Thunderfire Legion might not have been the #1 guild,
but they were always ranked near the top.
in my past life, when Apocalypse began fusing with Blue Star, it dealt a massive blow to the real world.
Lin Hall contributed both money and effort, and he really did his part.
In that case, selling it to him wouldn't be a bad idea.
With that in mind, I replied with a crick. No problem.
Just then, some players noticed that the glowing spheres around the Black Mud King were starting to fade. Crap! 567 is right over there. Quick! Rain down OEE skills. Cover the whole area.
If we throw enough skills at him, we can definitely force him out.
Once he's out, the gear is ours.
In an instant, a barrage of skills came crashing down.
Some were even swinging their rusty swords wildly at the empty air. If this had been before I fought the boss,
I might not have been able to dodge so many skills.
but things are different now.
With 74 points of agility boosting me,
The moment I snatched the loot, I had already dashed 10 meters away. Looks like I've been way too nice. With a flick of my wrist, I hurled a shadow dagger. The player who had been leading the shouting was instantly killed.
the player collapsed to the ground with a thud.
The people nearby were instantly startled.
It's 567. He attacked. Wasn't he just looting gear a second ago? How did he get so far away already?
I recognize the guy who just got one-shotted. He's an elite member of the Bloodblade Legion. The moment those words were spoken, Bloodblade Slash's face turned completely pale with dread. He quickly shouted, "I don't know this guy!" But just a dozen seconds later, a throwing dagger materialized silently out of nowhere, instantly killing him too. At the same time, my voice rang out coldly from the empty air. From now on, whenever a field boss spawns,
Don't let me catch a single member of the Bloodblade Legion here.
otherwise, I'll kill every last one of you on sight.
To me, it didn't matter who is trying to stir up the crowd.
What mattered was making an example out of them. Besides, a scumbag like Bloodblade Slash has no character anyway. Killing him didn't weigh on my conscience at all. I melted back into the shadows, waiting for my skill cooldowns. After insta-killing a few more members of the Bloodblade Legion in a row, my stance was made crystal clear. The remaining players finally gave up on any ideas of pushing their luck, and I finally had the time to check my loot. The first thing I looked at was the skill book I cared about most, Rupture. It was a Black Iron tier passive skill that tore open wounds while dealing damage.
It dealt 20% of my attack power, plus an extra 20 damage every second.
Lasting for 3 seconds. Earnable only by physical classes. Not a bad skill at all. The only downside was that the bleed effect did not stack. Even if my attack speed reached 10 hits per second, it would still only trigger 1 stack of bleed damage, but that was not really a big deal. What I cared more about was whether this damage over time could trigger the Hunter God bonus.
Based on my current attack power, plus the flat bleed damage,
3 seconds of damage would equal 72 points. If it could trigger the Hunter God bonus, the 5-fold multiplier from a 50-meter distance would reach 360 damage. What an amazing skill. Next, I looked at the first piece of gear in my inventory. The Black Mud Dagger. Black Iron tier, with 50 attack power, 5 agility, and a level 5 requirement. For the starter village stage, this was already top-tier gear.
50 attack power was ridiculously high. Then I looked at the second piece.
The Black Mud Battle Armor. Black Iron tier, with 20 defense, 200 health, and a level 5 requirement. This piece would also be a massive upgrade for me. Out of the 5 items dropped by OAS, the first 3 were incredibly useful. I was already more than satisfied. Next up was the Black Mud Longbow. Black Iron tier, 50 attack power, 5 agility, and a level 5 requirement. Strictly speaking, this was just a ranged version of the Black Mud Dagger. But at this stage, players could only equip 1 level 5 weapon. Keeping this bow in my inventory did not make much sense for me. I remembered that Lin Hao had an archer in his squad. If the price was right, I could sell this bow to him. The last piece was the Black Mud Shield. Black Iron tier, 50 defense, 100 health, 5 strength, and a level 5 requirement.
I sent the shield stats straight to Lin Hao. In the next second, a message from him popped up. Boss, name your price. If you say it, I'll pay it. No questions asked.
You absolutely have to save this gear for me. Do.
I chuckled to myself. I casually replied, I need gold coins.
How many Apocalypse coins do you want? You can link your bank card and get cash directly. And you don't have to worry about being traced.
The money will be completely safe.
But right now, I need gold coins more.
Because there is a quest that requires a certain amount of gold coins to unlock.
Lin Hao immediately asked in the team channel how much gold they had collected so far.
The contact on the other end said,
several other guilds have also set their sights on the gear in my hands, and they're ready to make an offer. Plus, the money dropped by monsters right now is pitifully low.
At most, just 1 or 2 copper coins. So in the end, they only managed to collect 15 gold coins.
Brother Yu nodded. He calmly said, step up the buying. Before he could even finish speaking, another message popped up in the chat window. It was a screenshot of the slime laborer's stats that I had sent over. Brother Yoon immediately forwarded it to the archer in his party.
The moment the archer saw it, he was so excited his jaw practically dropped. He stared at Brother Yoon with eager, pleading eyes. Brother Yoon chuckled.
Look at you, getting all impatient. I'll buy both of them. Then he messaged me again. Big shot, what's your asking price? I have 15 gold coins on hand. Right now.
But the other guilds are competing for them too. I estimate we can scrape together 40 gold coins at most. I did a quick calculation. At the current market rate, 1 gold coin is worth about 50,000 yuan. 40 gold coins would be nearly 2 million yuan. I thought about it for a moment and replied, I won't overcharge you. Here is my final offer. 30 gold coins for both pieces of gear. Brother Yoon agreed immediately, without even blinking.
He didn't care about the money at all.
If spending over 1 million could really boost his party's strength and help him establish a connection with me, then it was a massive steal. As long as he had my help, his guild would sooner or later become the #1 guild in Apocalypse. But because of this,
the other guild leaders couldn't sit still anymore. They all started spamming me with friend requests.
But I didn't accept a single one.
No one knew what other god-tier gear I was hiding. But looking at Brother Yoon's reaction, it was obvious. He knew I was still holding out on him. Some players tried to fish for details,
but Brother Yoon was way too sharp. He immediately put on a worried face and sighed. Oh man,
I can't get in touch with 567 either. What are we gonna do?
The moment he said that, he turned around and jacked up his buying price for gold coins even higher, making it crystal clear that he was determined to win them. Hiding in the shadows, I almost laughed out loud. This guy is a total drama king. Sure, if I put these 2 pieces of gear up for public auction,
I could definitely sell them for a lot more.
But 30 gold coins is already enough to unlock my quest. Besides, getting a higher price would mean waiting for the big guilds to slowly pool their money together.
And that's a total waste of time.
I might as well use that time to go hunt some wild boars and level up. While I was waiting, I didn't just sit around idly. Soloing that boss earlier got me a skill point. So I immediately used it to upgrade my Shadow Walk. Shadow Walk has been upgraded to level 2. Shadow Strike now deals an additional 120% of my attack power. In no time, Brother Yoon came through with incredible efficiency. Before long, he sent me a message. Cylon, I've got all the gold. I immediately initiated the trade and pocketed the 30 gold coins. Not wanting to waste another second, I left the beginner village and headed out into the wild. My destination this time was the Bluestone Wilderness to the north. There's a bottomless cliff out there, surrounded by elite monsters with gold and silver crowns. Ordinary players wouldn't dare go near it. But for me, it couldn't be more perfect. After climbing over a mountain, I saw a rock giant over 4 meters tall wandering back and forth. Clearstone Giant. Elite. Level 10. Health, 3,500. Attack, 50. Defense, 400. Skills, Boulder Toss and Earth Shock.
A level 10 wild boar only has 500 health.
But this guy has more than double that. Not to mention his defense is a whopping 400,
which is even tougher than a black iron giant slime.
And because of this, no one even discovered there was a boss in the Bluestone Wilderness until 2 months after the server launched. On top of that, it's silver grade. But the trigger conditions are brutal. I have to slay 100 elite eroded giants,
and it has to be a solo kill.
For other players, this is practically mission impossible. But for me, it's a walk in the park. Let's test out the bleed damage first. The next second, I aim right at a bluestone giant in the distance and hurl a shadow dagger. The moment the -1590 damage pop-up appears, I'm already slipping back into stealth. Hit out of nowhere and unable to find its target, the bluestone giant flies into a blind rage. It throws its head back and roars, slamming its massive arms furiously into the ground, before grabbing rocks from the ground and hurling them blindly in all directions. I just watch, coldly, lurking safely in the shadows. Soon,
The bleed damage on its body starts ticking as the minus 120 damage numbers start floating up.
I know I've got this in the bag.
The bleed damage even benefits from the Titan bonus. Within just 3 seconds, Bluestone Giant loses another 360 health.
Combined with that initial Shadow Dagger strike, its HP is already down to less than half, which means
I could take down a Bluestone Giant in just 2 hits.
once the skill cooldown is up,
I let loose another Shadow Dagger.
minus 1,590. A weak point attack.
The Bluestone Giant's health bars instantly empties,
Its entire body crumbles into countless fragments.
melting back into the mountain ridge. Ding!
Killed a level 10 Bluestone Giant. Gained 150 experience points. Bonus 90 experience points awarded for defeating a monster 6 levels higher.
As expected of an elite mob,
The experience payout is massive. I get more and more pumped up as I fight.
so I just lose myself in the grind.
It doesn't take long before I reach level 5. I dump all 15 of my free attribute points straight into agility
And equip the 2 new pieces of gear from my inventory.
with my stats boosted.
My overall combat power
Skyrockets.
and my attack power multiplies several times over.
Going some quick math.
With my current damage output within a 50-meter range, combining Shadow Dagger with Shadow Breaking Strike and a weak point attack, the direct damage alone reaches 2,781.
A total of 492 points in just 3 seconds. That's a total of 3,273 damage. But sadly, it's still not enough to one-shot an eroded giant with a single throwing dagger.
Just wait until I kill enough monsters.
Once I get the evolution points to trigger the second evolution of my Shadow Walk skill,
One-shotting them will be a piece of cake. I've been going on an absolute killing spree through the desolate ridge of 1,000 ages. They're falling one after another. Under the influence of some mysterious force, their remains are quickly melting into the ground.
this is a ritual to activate the eroded giant lord.
The glowing array patterns on the ground, growing clearer by the second, are the ultimate proof. According to the lore dug up by players, this boss was sealed away in this very place. To most players, it's just a fun piece of lore to read. I don't know the real secrets of Tianqi. This boss likely comes from another world that was swallowed and merged into Tianqi.
And I have a nagging gut feeling that my theory is highly likely to come true.
If Blue Star fails to hold off the gods in the end,
Will we also be swallowed whole by Tianqi?
will we become just another piece of the game, forced to descend upon some other world? The moment that thought crossed my mind,
A cold shiver ran right down my spine. The secrets behind Tianqi run far too deep.
I took a deep, steadying breath. As shadow energy condensed in my palm, I launched a throwing dagger, pinning it dead center into the head of a distant Bluestone Giant.
Ding! Kill confirmed. Level 10 Bluestone Giant slain.
You have gained 150 XPP.
Bonus 60 XPM awarded for defeating an enemy 4 levels higher. Congratulations. You have leveled up to level 7 and received 15 free attribute points.
Ding! Hunter's Owl activated. You have gained 1 evolution point. Evolving Shadow Walk. Shadow Walk has evolved to Bronze tier. Shadow Strike now deals additional damage equal to 140% of your attack power, plus 400. Mana cost applied. Cooled in 16 seconds. Now that is what I call a massive spike in damage. I locked my eyes on a Bluestone Giant, wandering in the distance. With a flick of my wrist, I launched another dagger. Boom! Minus 6,356 health. Before this, hitting for around 3,300 total damage with a single throw was already crazy enough. But now that Shadow Walk is evolved to Bronze tier, I don't even need to rely on the bleed effect. I can pretty much one-shot these Bluestone Giants outright. Just one more level, and I should meet the requirements to summon the boss.
A surge of anticipation builds up inside me.
I can't wait to see what it feels like to solo a silver tier boss all by myself. In my past life, even the player who originally discovered the Bluestone Lord had to drag an entire raid group along just to slowly chip away at his health until he died. And that battle was an absolute bloodbath. From that moment on, every single time I flicked a Shadow Dagger, another Bluestone Giant would instantly bite the dust. The only downside is the Shadow Dagger is a single target skill. It just can't compete with area effect skills. Looks like I'll need to find an opportunity to grab some universal ranged skill books. The freedom in Apocalypse is absolutely insane. On top of learning skills from your class, Thinker, you can also use skill books to round out your build. They even have universal skill books
That let you mix and match your skills however you want.
In other words,
If a player really wanted to,
they could build a healing warrior.
or a dual-wielding mage. Ridiculous classes like that are totally possible.
Though, no sane person would actually play like that. While I was busy grinding away, Leafblade Slasher went through a ton of trouble to finally track down my location. That bastard humiliated me so much earlier. I'm going to make him pay 100 times over.
Leafblade Slasher's eyes burned with rage.
As he tightly gripped the scroll in his arms. This was a top-tier item he had risked his life to get, designed specifically to counter assassins. Unfortunately, I had no idea what he was planning. After slaughtering monsters for over 10 minutes, my level finally reached level 8.
I dumped all my stat points into agility and glanced at my stat panel.
Strength, 17.
Constitution, 12. Agility, 145. Spirit, 11. With this much agility, even the Wolf King, famous for its speed, won't be able to escape me.
The reason I didn't rush to do the Wolf King quest earlier
Was because that beast is notoriously difficult to fight. Its attack speed is insane, and it runs even faster. Unlike ordinary bosses, once the Wolf King's health gets low, it runs away like crazy.
If your agility isn't high enough, you'll never catch it.
But now, that's not a problem for me at all. I'll finish off the Bluestone Lord first,
And then head back to deal with the Wolf King. Having laid out my plan, the Bluestone Giants kept collapsing, one by one.
The glowing lines of the magic circle on the ground grew clearer and clearer,
And faint tremors would occasionally ripple up from deep underground.
This meant the Bluestone Lord was finally waking up. I quickly did a mental count of my kills. Just a few more minutes, and the boss will be fully activated.
But before I could even make my next move,
Brother Thing sent me a message. 567. Are you at the Bluestone Barrens?
he said Nightblade Slash is heading your way with a group. Reading this, I wasn't surprised at all.
That guy is incredibly petty. Since I insta-killed him with a single blow,
He was bound to come back to get even.
But that's not the point.
the point is, I want to see what kind of trump card he's hiding. For him to bring so many people with such a massive show of force,
He must be pretty confident.
While I was pondering this,
Brother Yoon sent me another message. One of my guys said Nightblade Slash found a true sight scroll.
But he has no idea what it's for.
I got it instantly.
That explains everything. With an item like that in hand,
It really would be easy to force an ordinary assassin out of stealth. Meanwhile, Nightblade Slash was leading a large group of players, pushing deep into the Bluestone Barrens. Along the way, Bluestone Giants kept spawning.
be cursed and fought their way through.
exhausting all their strength just to take down the giants before getting smashed to pieces.
After clearing the one right in front of him,
Nightblade Slash caught his breath and yelled into the empty air. 567!
get the hell out here.
The other players stared wide-eyed, waiting to see how I'd respond.
They probably thought it'd be just like last time, where a single throwing dagger would instant kill him.
Nightblade Slash had obviously anticipated this.
That's why he brought along a player with a hidden class to help.
That guy has a skill to redirect damage, splitting lethal blows among his teammates.
Think he brought dozens of players with him this time.
Even if I could one-shot someone every single time,
It would still take forever.
And during that time, his men could easily run back from the graveyard and rejoin the fight. That was Nightblade Slash's perpetual motion tactic.
Of course, his plan didn't stop there.
come on, come and one-shot me right now.
Nightblade Slash sneered in his heart.
But he didn't see any throwing dagger.
Instead, he watched as a Bluestone Giant in the distance suddenly dropped dead.
Followed by a shadow flashing by.
It's 567. Nightblade Slasher was overjoyed.
Just as he was about to pull out a scroll,
He nearly slipped.
suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake violently.
Lep-like cracks spidered across the hard, rocky terrain.
Then, a terrifying roar echoed from deep underground.
Insignificant ants. How dare you?
Thing to do. Thing to do.
I will crush you to pieces. Along with the furious roar,
A terrifying colossal stone giant surged up from beneath the cliff. The players were knocked off their feet, rolling all over the ground.
They scrambled to steady themselves. And when they looked up,
they practically cried out in unison. Holy crap, that thing is massive! Looming over the edge of the cliff was a giant boss, standing over 20 meters tall.
Made entirely of pitch black rock.
what was more, it was a silver-grade boss. After a brief moment of shock, the players' eyes filled with raw excitement and greed.
Charge!
Kill the boss and grab the loot.
I heard Brother Yoon sold 2 pieces of equipment from that giant slime earlier for a whopping 30 gold coins.
That's nearly 1 million.
And that was just iron grade.
This one is silver grade.
Its loot must be worth at least 10 million.
We're about to strike it rich.
They didn't even bother to check the boss's stats.
Grabbing their weapons, they charged forward. Name, Amos, the Obsidian Titan. Grade, silver, level 10.
Health, 400,000. Attack, 2,000.
Defense, 3,000. Skills, Rock Shattering Strike, Boulder Toss,
Hardened skin.
and Heavy Flam. Description: the Sealed Titan, who prolonged seal has stripped him of his original power.
Even so, breaking free will only bring endless wrath and destruction.
Triggering the boss right before the Nightblade Guild got here was my plan all along.
Right now, my damage output is off the charts.
But my attack speed is still too slow. Nightblade Slasher brought dozens of his lackeys with him this time.
Even if I take them down with 1 hit each, it would take forever.
In that case,
I might as well let the boss send them back to the graveyard for me. With Amos's devastating skill damage,
Wiping the floor with them will only take a couple of hits.
as for me, I'll just slip into the shadows.
I kicked things off with a shadow dagger. Unlike the Bluestone Giant,
Amos's weak spot is on his abdomen.
and to make it worse, it's covered by heavy rock chunks, only show itself briefly when he moves.
Of course, with my crazy damage output, even if I don't target his weak spot, soloing Amos is just a matter of time. But to avoid any unexpected trouble, I decide to land every single hit on his weak spot. Minus 6,356. The instant the weak spot strike hits, the bleed effect kicks in. In just 20 minutes,
I'll have Amos soloed and dead.
as expected of a silver grade boss, his health bars is ridiculously long.
Not far away, Brother Yoon's squad has been completely dumbfounded for a while now.
They're too far away to clearly see the damage numbers above the boss's head. But seeing how fast that health bars is dropping,
They can easily guess just how insane my damage output is.
Brother Yoon immediately lets out a curse. Holy crap. Am I seeing things?
567 just took over 6,000 health off the boss in a single hit.
on the other hand, Nightblade is starting to panic, but the words are already out there.
It's too late to regret it now. Just as that thought crosses his mind,
Nightblade suddenly notices the sky going dark above him.
A massive boulder, several meters wide, is hurtling right toward him.
the ground violently shakes.
Yet, Nightblade stands frozen in place, unable to move.
The good news? Thanks to damage transfer, he wasn't instantly killed. The bad news? The teammates he brought along were completely crushed by that massive rock,
Causing a total party wipe.
Now there is absolutely no one left to share the damage for him.
If I decide to make my move now,
He won't stand a single chance.
Nightblade glits his teeth and pulls out a scroll. This was originally meant to be a trump card against me.
But after things went sideways, he's forced to waste it early. But he doesn't care. As long as he can break my stealth,
He'll eventually send me back to the respawn point anyway.
plus he has already stationed over a dozen guild members with active skills at the respawn point, attacking them to continuously spam attacks there. The moment I respawn,
They'll make sure I can't even take a step out.
567. Once you're dead,
You might as well delete your account.
with a cold sneer, Nightblade 1/ tore open the scroll without a second thought. Instantly, a strange force enveloped the entire Bluestone wilderness.
Every player received a system alert.
The gaze of the God of Light is upon this place. All darkness shall be laid bare. But the moment Nightblade 1/ activated the scroll, he took another massive burst of damage, sending him straight back to the graveyard.
But he didn't care in the slightest. Getting sent back first was actually perfect for him.
He wanted to watch exactly how I would get spawn killed over and over again. He refused to believe that under the power of this scroll,
I could still keep my stealth active.
I got the system notification too.
But I wasn't surprised at all.
In fact, the moment Brother Yoon contacted me, I already knew exactly what item he was holding.
Gaze of the God of Light, a mere black iron grade scroll.
Also known as the Idle Cloud Scroll.
The name alone sounds pretty intimidating.
Fancy, high-end, and powerful. But in reality,
I really wanted to tell Nightblade 1/, dude, you bought a knockoff
in the world of Tianji,
even in the early stages of the game.
any item associated with the gods must be at least dark gold grade. A mere black iron grade scroll, trying to claim a connection to the God of Light. That's an absolute joke.
It's just a cheap trick sold by some shady NPC to scam newbie players. Though, I wouldn't say it's completely useless.
On the contrary, it actually has a purpose. It can break any stealth effect below bronze grade.
But that doesn't include bronze grade itself.
When we were fighting the giant slime earlier, Nightblade 1/ figured I only had black iron grade stealth.
So using this scroll as his trump card made sense.
But here's the catch. I've already evolved my shadow stealth.
In the distance, Brother Yoon was getting anxious.
If my stealth got broken, there's no way I could solo this boss. And I might even get instantly one-shot.
Plus, he had just received word that the Nightblade Guild was already preparing an indiscriminate attack on the respawn point.
The moment I stepped foot back in the respawn area, I wouldn't be able to get out alive. Brother Kun was anxious as hell.
He quickly filled me in on the situation and said,
567. You get out of here first. Don't try to tough it out here. Anyway, the Obsidian Giant Lord Aaron is just waiting out the scroll's effect here.
Once it wears off, we can always come back. There's still time.
But the moment the words left his mouth,
he saw Aaron's health bars suddenly drop by a chunk. That single hit dealt over 6,000 damage.
it stood out like crazy.
The Obsidian Giant Lord, Aaron, was still attacking like mad. But he was actually feeling incredibly frustrated.
Some tiny bug kept hiding in the shadows, launching sneak attacks on him.
Yet he couldn't do a single thing to stop them.
Damn it. Hasn't that wretched shadow power already been purged by the holy light?
How is it popping up again? The more Aaron thought about it, the angrier he got. He grabbed the boulders around him and started hurling them wildly,
Desperately trying to crush that annoying pest to death.
He even grabbed a luckless granite giant nearby, tossing it dozens of meters through the air.
With a massive crash, the giant slammed onto the ground, left completely dazed and disoriented, instantly crushing several unfortunate players around it out of existence. From the moment the boss was activated, until now, less than half a minute had passed. Yet over 100 players had already been sent straight back to the respawn point.
But the damage the players dealt to Aaron
was a solid 0 across the board. Couldn't even break his defense.
On the rare occasion someone managed to deal single-digit damage,
We would be swatted into meat paste in the very next second. When Rakshasa 1/ and his crew charged over, it made quite a scene.
hundreds of players crowded around them, but
Against Aaron, they stood absolutely no chance.
none of this affected me in the slightest. I kept moving at my own pace, lying on my shadow daggers to deal continuous high damage. It might have looked easy, but in reality, it was incredibly thrilling and dangerous. Aaron was a silver tier boss,
And his perception was ridiculously sharp.
the second I made a move, he would retaliate instantly. Throwing those multi-time boulders was no different from tossing pebbles.
He would hurl them effortlessly.
Flying so fast they even triggered sonic booms. Honestly, if my agility hadn't already reached 145,
I wouldn't have stood a chance of dodging such a fierce onslaught.
those rocks were flying way too fast. In the blink of an eye, they were right in front of me. If your reaction was even a split second too slow, getting instantly obliterated would be the best case scenario.
Thank goodness I kept pushing forward without stopping.
Otherwise, if Brother Kun saw me scrambling and jumping around like a headless chicken, it completely shattered the tall, mighty image of 5'6'7" he has in his head.
Aaron lashed out for what felt like forever, only to realize that this little bugger was still alive.
That completely broke his mental state.
You're a filthy ant. You deserve to die. The more he fought, the more furious he became.
To vent his rage,
He simply turned his wrath on the remaining players.
following a series of deafening explosions,
The players who had gathered just to watch the show were completely wiped out. Watching from a distance, Brother Kun was breaking out in a cold sweat.
He was never more wide awake in his life.
Thank goodness 5'6'7" warned me.
Otherwise, if we had been any closer, we would have been sent straight back to the graveyard with them.
He had just witnessed a player who had managed to run nearly 200 meters away.
Only to be smashed to pieces by one of Arrow's rocks.
That accuracy was literally like a heat-seeking missile.
Just as the entire Black Rock Hills was about to be pulverized into a giant basin by Aaron, Brother Kun suddenly received a message from me. How much are you willing to pay for this round of gear?
Brother Kun replied instantly. Up to 100 million is totally fine. I nodded in satisfaction.
Flicking my wrist, I unleashed another throwing knife, dealing over 6,000 damage, and managed to dash out of the blast zone of the falling boulders, just in the nick of time. Looking at Aaron, who was absolutely seething but couldn't lay a finger on me, I couldn't help but feel a smug sense of superiority.
No matter how insanely high your attack power is, if you can't land a single hit, it's completely useless. And no matter how thick your defense is,
You still have to take a beating when faced with true damage.
Right now, the priority is to slowly wear down this boss and then head back to find the Wolf King to trigger the next part of the hidden quest line.
if I hadn't known the quest walkthrough from my past life, I would have never guessed that the Wolf King and Aaron were actually connected.
But to be honest,
There's still a crucial bridge character missing in between.
Once I take down Aaron,
and unlock the hidden dungeon beneath the cliff,
I'll be able to lure the Wolf King right over. Taking advantage of my skill cooldowns, I mentally mapped out the entire quest line once more.
I'm currently on the exclusive hidden path, which allows me to get first-hand access to the boss's skull, while the public version of the quest is open to all players.
All they need is to reach level 3.
You can then head over to the Hunter to pick up hunting quests where you'll be tasked to kill a set number of wild boars, wild bulls, and wild wolves. Completing those finally unlocks the ultimate quest, hunting down the Wolf King.
Of course, standard quests won't just hand over a boss's skull. But either way, they always trigger a hidden follow-up.
And once you lure the Wolf King into the dungeon, it summons the Novice Village's hidden boss.
The resurrected vampire baron.
I looked back toward the Novice Village.
The arc, solemn look creeping into my eyes.
Who would have thought that the village chief, the very man supposed to guide new players, had been infected by the vampire's curse?
And ended up as a loyal lapdog for the vampire baron? If Apocalypse were just an ordinary game, I probably praise the developers for hiding such an incredible Easter egg.
But this hidden quest line is actually a dark warning, a sign that the vampires are rising once more.
When the vampires first descended alongside the Apocalypse, they treated our planet, Blue Star, as their personal buffet. Just thinking about those days, the agonized screams of my people right before they died seemed to echo in my ears all over again. I took a deep breath and forced all those chaotic thoughts back down. With a flick of my wrist, I hurled another flying dagger. Taking the hit, Aaron slammed the ground in absolute fury, but it was completely useless.
10 minutes later, Aaron's health bars had plummeted below 50%, and 99% of that damage came directly from me.
Watching from a safe distance, Brother Kun finally let out a sigh of relief. The loot was as good as ours.
Aaron didn't have any special mechanics,
Nor did he have a second phase. After being relentlessly bombarded by my flying daggers for so long,
This silver tier boss, who was strong enough to dominate the entire Novice Village, could do nothing but collapse in utter rage and humiliation. First, his pitch-black rocky body lost its luster.
then cracks spread rapidly across his skin, until finally, he crumbled completely.
collapsing into a heap of rubble and dust.
Among the debris, several glowing silver lights appeared, and hidden right within them was a glint of gold.
My heart leaped with excitement.
He actually dropped gold tier loot. That's a tier above him.
In Apocalypse, the chance of a boss dropping loot a level higher than its own tier is incredibly microscopic.
System notification. You have defeated a silver tier boss, gaining 20,000 experience points.
This defeat is a server first kill.
You have been awarded an additional 50 free attribute points and 5 skill points, along with 50 reputation points.
You have leveled up to level 10.
You have obtained 30 free attribute points and 1 evolution point.
This first kill is about to be announced server-wide.
Hide player identity? Set to no. Player 567 has achieved the server first kill of the silver tier boss, Aaron, Lord of the Black Key.
We encourage all players to keep pushing forward.
Player 567 is the first to reach level 10. The level leaderboard is now open.
You have reached level 10. Please proceed to your class mentor as soon as possible to complete your first class advancement.
Please note that before you complete your class advancement,
Your experience cap will be locked.
any excess experience will automatically accumulate in your experience pool.
A barrage of system notifications keep chiming in my ears.
As a silver tier boss,
Aaron's first kill rewards are incredibly generous. The experience alone instantly bumped me up 2 levels right on the spot.
this also means
As long as I can wear the gear Aaron dropped,
I can immediately equip level 10 silver tier gear.
the stats are way stronger than my level 5 iron tier gear.
I dump all 80 of my free attribute points straight into agility. Now, my agility has surpassed 200.
In real world,
This kind of speed would easily make me the fastest runner on Earth. I open my inventory and start checking the loot.
First up is the gold tier item, the Substitute Strawman, a gold tier item. It absorbs fatal damage on behalf of its owner
and teleports them to a designated safe zone.
It can be manually activated. Uses. 1. I froze for a second.
Wait, it's actually this item? During the gaming phase of Apocalypse,
The Substitute Strawman was actually considered a bit of a joke among gold tier items.
most players thought, so what if I die? I'll just respawn.
It's just a waste of a little time. But I know that Apocalypse will eventually merge with reality.
And when that happens,
Death is final. That's exactly when the value of the Substitute Strawman skyrocketed. An extra life. Who wouldn't want that? No amount of money could make me sell this.
next, I look at the second piece of loot,
The silver tier Feo armor.
Defense, 300. Health points, 1,000.
Strength, 10. Requirements, level 10 and strengths greater than 50.
Items in Apocalypse generally have no class restrictions.
They do have attribute requirements,
And I went for a full agility build. This piece of white armor was never meant to be mine, so I went ahead and forwarded the stats to Brother Kuhn.
The third piece of loot was an obsidian necklace, silver grade. Health points, 100. Mana, 300. Spirit, 20. Requirements, level 10 and spirit must be over 50.
The fourth item was finally something I could actually use. The Star of the Mountains ring,
Silver grade. Health points, 200. Mana, 200. Required level, 10.
equipment effect. Generates a shield that can absorb 3,000 damage.
lasts for 30 seconds.
Codaman, 10 minutes.
These statting aren't exactly mind-blowing, but luckily, it has that equipment effect.
And it's exactly what I need right now.
Rakshasa 1/ is still camping me at the spawn point, so having more survival tools is definitely a good thing.
There are still 2 more drops left.
I hope they'll be useful too.
When I looked at the 5th piece of loot,
My expression suddenly turned a bit weird. Holy crap.
why is it this thing?
What appeared in front of me was a silver grade guild token.
It can be used at the main city's affairs officer to establish a guild of up to 1,000 players.
In Apocalypse, you absolutely need a guild token to establish a guild.
And depending on the grade of the guild token, the maximum member limit is different.
Low-tier guilds can even be expanded using higher-grade guild tokens without needing to disband and rebuild.
For players,
Establishing a guild isn't just about a sense of
belonging. The more practical benefit is forming raids, aside from the raid dungeons that will open up later.
for normal open-world combat and small dungeons, players can only form a party of up to 6 people. Once a guild is established, guild leader and vice leaders can start forming raids. Depending on the guild's level,
they can form raids of up to 100 to 1,000 players. For open-world boss fights, this provides a massive advantage.
but not everyone is like me.
Able to dish out enough damage all by myself.
Most players still have to rely on teaming up to take down bosses.
And that's exactly why guilds are so important.
At this point in time, even though everyone is still in the novice village,
But the moment I pull out this guild token,
it will absolutely drag all the top guild leaders out of hiding. It's no exaggeration to say this guild token could easily fetch over $100 million at auction. I vaguely remember that in my past life. The very first guild token was hyped up to over 300 or 400 million.
but selling it now isn't the right move. I need to wait for the perfect opportunity to squeeze them dry.
Slaying the boss with a single slash and swiftly pocketing the guild token.
I looked at the last dropped item,
a powerful silver-grade consumable that permanently increases my strength by 20 points. Needless to say, I consumed it immediately. Only after dealing with all the loot did I have time to check my private messages. The chat interface was absolutely packed with messages from Brother Kun. I briefly told him about the gear. Waiting anxiously in the distance, Brother Kun instantly jumped up. 567 replied to me. He said he has 2 pieces of gear to sell me. As he spoke, he shared the stats of the obsidian plate armor and the obsidian necklace into the party chat. 567 hasn't given a price yet.
Joshua, analyze this. What's a fair offer? Brother Ku asked. Yashi thought for a moment and said, 5 million, plus 20% of the shares in Dynasty.
Although I haven't spoken to 567 directly, judging from his previous actions.
567 doesn't seem to mind you, boss.
Brother Kun nodded thoughtfully. That's actually a great idea. But in the end, it depends on whether 567 is willing. If he doesn't want any real-world ties with us, he won't accept the shares, boss. So, we need to prepare a backup plan. Shaishil nodded. The backup plan is still 5 million, plus 2 common ranged skill books that are at least iron grade. Brother Kun said approvingly. Good, this is exactly what I was hoping for. He immediately opened his friend list and sent over the first proposal. After sending it, there was no reply for a long time. Brother Kun paced back and forth, consumed with anxiety. It wasn't until a while later that my reply finally came through. Your chief strategist gave you 2 proposals, didn't they? Teeth, I'd choose the second one. Brother Kun froze instantly. He knew for a fact that he had never met me before. Yet, my behavior made it seem like I knew everything about him. Brother Kun quickly replied, our offer is still $5 million, plus 2 ranged skill books that are at least iron grade. This is exactly the proposal I wanted. As for the first one, I wouldn't even consider it. Although I had dealt with Brother Kun quite a bit in my past life, that didn't mean I trusted him, especially when it comes to my real identity. I remember it clearly. In my past life, many top-tier players didn't die at the hands of the enemy race. Instead, they were stabbed in the back by the very people they trusted. I traded the 2 pieces of gear over, and almost instantly, I received the payment notification. No problem. I'll get those remaining 2 skill books to you as soon as possible. Once the trade was done, I didn't rush to leave. Instead, I walked over to the edge of the cliff. Haroon's corpse was already starting to crumble, slowly dissolving into the earth. Before long, it left a massive rift in the ground. Right beneath that rift lay the entrance to the hidden dungeon. With a few quick leaps, I landed on the flat clearing below the cliff. The dark cave loomed ahead. Its entrance was sealed by a shimmering, translucent barrier of light. The moment I reached my hand out and touched the glowing barrier, a server-wide announcement suddenly flashed. Player 567 has discovered the hidden dungeon beneath the cliff, Crimson Snowfall. All players are welcome to explore. Warning, this dungeon is extremely difficult. Please select an appropriate difficulty level before entering. Instantly, every player in the game froze in their tracks. Everyone began frantically asking where this new dungeon was. Before long, players scrambled to form teams of 2s and 3s, braving the relentless attacks of the Black Rock Giants. They left a trail of corpses with every step, as they charged toward the platform beneath the cliff. At last, they laid their eyes on the dungeon entrance they had been dreaming of. Please select dungeon difficulty: Normal, Hero, King, or Nightmare. A few players huddled together to discuss. Deciding to play it safe, they figured they would run the normal difficulty first, to farm some basic gear. But the moment they stepped inside, the very first wave of mobs wiped out their entire party. Standing back at the spawn point, the team members stared at each other in utter disbelief. What the hell just happened? As more and more players began respawning at the graveyard, furious curses erupted. What kind of trash dungeon is this? How can normal mode be this insanely hard? Are the game developers out of their minds? Meanwhile, after unlocking the hidden dungeon, I was in no hurry to enter. Instead, I turned around and headed straight for the Wild Wolf Valley. I knew all too well that with the current level and gear of average players, clearing the normal difficulty was already their absolute limit. The other 3 difficulties after it are absolutely insane. But of course, none of that compares to the secret mode triggered when the Wolf King leaps into the dungeon. Even Nightmare mode pales in comparison to that special challenge. Everything else is manageable, since its overall difficulty is about the same as Nightmare mode. The real nightmare is that final hidden boss, the resurrected Blood Baron. He is ridiculously OP, and fighting him is absolute torture. On my way to Wild Wolf Slope, I couldn't stop thinking, once I get my hands on the Blood Baron's heart, how exactly should I confront him face to face? He is way more than just a novice village chief. But once players expose his true colors, the bastard won't feel a shred of remorse. Instead, he'll even try to lure players into joining the Blood Clan faction. And if anyone is foolish enough to join, there will come a day when they will bow down completely to the invading Blood Clan, turning into their spineless lapdogs. They'll even take sick pleasure in slaughtering their own kind. Even Rakshasa's blade couldn't resist that temptation. In the end, he dragged his entire guild,
the Rakshata Palace, straight into the abyss with him.
Once Chanchu merges further with reality and Dine in the game becomes real, death.
I'll make sure to wipe out Rakshas's blade first.
Thanks to my ridiculously high agility stat,
My movement speed is way beyond any ordinary player.
Before long, I arrived at my destination, Kanglang Slope. Before I even got close,
the sound of wolves howling echoed one after another from the overgrown wild grass while searching for the Wolf King.
I casually tossed a throwing knife, taking down every wild wolf in my line of sight, even though my level cap has locked my experience points for now.
The moment I complete my class advancement,
All that stored experience will be instantly released. Plus, I still need to keep hoarding evolution points. So, naturally, any monster I lay eyes on is as good as dead. I'm not wasting a single one.
since I'll be tackling the special mode soon, I should spend my skill points first.
I started by upgrading my Shadow Walk.
Consuming 2 skill points, Shadow Walk has been upgraded to level 4. Shadow Strike now deals an additional 140% of my attack power as damage, plus an extra 800 flat damage.
It costs 5 mana and has a cooldown of 16 seconds, a 400-point flat increase.
Paired with Shadow Strike's weak point modifier
And the multiple buffs from my Sniper God talent, it's more than enough to push my Shadow Dagger's damage past the 10,000 mark. Just as I was basking in the joy of my insane damage boost, a sudden, piercing wolf howl caught my attention. I followed the sound and looked over, and there it was. The Wolf King I'd been desperately hunting down.
Without wasting a second, I gripped my throwing knives, charged right in, and unleashed a barrage of attacks.
A few minutes later, the Wolf King's agonizing howls echoed across the entire Grey Wolf Slope.
Compared to his former majestic glory,
Right now, he looked more like a pathetic, beaten dog, whimpering with his tail tucked between his legs as he desperately scrambled backward.
Even the elite wolves guarding him were instantly obliterated the second a stray throwing knife grazed them.
but the Wolf King didn't dare look back. Not even once.
This enemy was just too terrifying. He had only taken a few hits, but it already felt like his long-dead ancestors were calling him to the afterlife. The Wolf King let out a frustrated, pathetic whimper,
Only to get struck by another throwing knife immediately after.
his health bars took a massive nosedive.
Absolutely terrified, the Wolf King shut his mouth instantly.
Not even daring to breathe a single gasp.
He focused entirely on running for his life.
He had only one thought in his mind. No matter what,
He had to make it to that place.
watching the Wolf King scramble desperately to the north,
He couldn't help but grin.
This beast actually has some brains.
knowing he can't win. Leading the trouble to his sworn enemy makes perfect sense.
After all, the Wolf King and the Vampire Baron were natural-born enemies.
To be more precise,
It was an age-old blood feud between the werewolves and the vampires. Once the hidden dungeon was activated, the Wolf King was subconsciously drawn to flee toward the north.
He knew there was an enemy there, but he was too weak to ever kill them on his own.
Since that was the case, he might as well lure this terrifying stalker right to that mysterious rival
And let them fight it out to the death.
even if he died.
He wasn't going to let his enemies have it easy either.
At that moment, many players who were preparing to raid the hidden dungeon, the Crimson Crypt, witnessed an unforgettable sight. The ruler of Wild Wolf Slope, a bronze-tier boss known as the One-Eyed Wolf King, had actually fled to the Granite Hills.
But his condition was clearly terrible.
With his health bars nearly empty.
The players were instantly thrilled. This was a boss delivered right to their doorstep.
On the spot, some of them wanted to rush forward and land the killing blow.
But before they could even make a move,
Only to be instantly swiped by the Wolf King's claw and sent straight back to the respawn point. The Wolf King was already burning with suppressed rage. This was the final straw. He completely lost his mind.
he began to attack the surrounding players like a rabid beast. Watching this from the shadows, I was getting seriously annoyed. What the hell are you doing, you idiot? Get your ass into the dungeon already.
He flicked my wrist, letting a throwing knife fly. The massive damage numbers popping up over his head instantly snapped the Wolf King out of his frenzy.
Terrified, he practically scrambled and clawed his way to the edge of the cliff and leaped off.
Crashing headfirst, straight into the dungeon entrance.
The next second, a terrifying, spine-chilling roar echoed across the entire Granite Hills.
Laced with humiliated rage, a voice boomed, "You filthy beast!"
Where do you think you're biting? As the Vampire Baron flew into a rage, the entrance of the Crimson Crypt slowly turned from semi-transparent to blood red. Looking as if it had been thoroughly drenched in fresh blood, it radiated an ominous, deathly aura. At the same time,
All the parties currently running the dungeon received a game notification.
the sleeping Vampire Baron has been awakened. His wrath has enveloped the entire Crimson Crypt.
Monster attack power increased by 20%.
Attack speed increased by 20%.
a new buff, Baron's Wrath, has been added below the health bars of all monsters.
The dungeon running teams, who were already struggling, instantly got absolutely wrecked.
Within seconds, the respawn point was filled with non-stop cursing. And yet,
The culprit behind all of this chaos,
me, was currently choosing my dungeon difficulty. You have selected Nightmare difficulty. Please note, an unknown change has occurred in this difficulty.
please choose with caution. As soon as I hit confirm,
The dungeon entrance began to glow with faint starlit energy. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard a wolf's howl echoing from deep within the dungeon. But unlike before, the howl this time was incredibly raspy and hollow. I knew it was because the Wolf King had already been resurrected as a necro-wolf with a decaying body. This voice naturally changed. Then, the low, chilling chuckle of the Vampire Baron echoed. I smell the scent of fresh flesh. How absolutely delicious. Intruder, I will drain you of your very last drop of blood. Go, my servants. Bring the intruder to me. I shall feast upon them. With his command, the entire Star Lake crypt echoed with excited, savage roars. It was the sound of the vampire thralls. Heavy, chaotic footsteps echoed, closing in from all directions. In dimming light, a swarm of hideous, terrifying creatures scrabbled rapidly along the walls, charging straight toward the dungeon's exit. I swept my gaze over them, and their stats instantly flashed before my eyes. A weakened vampire thrall, level 10. Health, 10,000. Attack, 400 plus 80. Defense, 280. Kills, bite, dis. Think in fiction, blood tracking. Description: adventurers who trespassed here years ago were turned into thralls by the Vampire Baron, faithfully guarding this crypt ever since. A level 10 monster with a whopping 10,000 HP. Their attack and defense stats aren't low either. Out in the wild, this would easily be a mini-boss. But here, they're just the most basic, common mobs. This is the nightmare difficulty. For you, over a dozen vampire thralls charged at me aggressively, but the very next second they all froze in confusion. Where did he go? They could smell the warm scent of life in the air. Yes, they couldn't find where I was. He's a prowler. The vampire thralls quickly realized and immediately bunched up together. They had dealt with stealth enemies before and knew their weakness. Their attack range was tiny. To strike, the intruder would have to put himself right in their face. The moment the enemy broke stealth, except for the one being attacked, the rest would swarm him and tear the intruder to shreds. A decent plan indeed. Too bad for them, they ran into me. Minus 11,503. Weak point strike. A throwing knife plunged straight into a thrall's head. Its health bars emptied instantly and collapsed to the ground. Killed a level 10 vampire thrall. Gained 200 experience points. Experience cap is locked. I immediately cast Shadow Stealth. The remaining thralls were utterly baffled. The enemy's presence was actually coming from dozens of meters away. Isn't he a prowler? How could he attack from so far away? Before they could even figure out what was happening, another vampire thrall collapsed on the spot. Some thralls could no longer suppress their bloodlust and charged toward the source of the scent. Their claws slashed wildly through the air, desperately trying to flesh out the enemy. But their struggles were doomed to be futile. Within a dozen seconds, the thrall that was still clawing at the air suddenly froze. Health bars was completely emptied and collapsed, taking its confusion to the grave. Watching the mobs constantly spawning in the corridor, I decided to make it quick and carve a path straight through. By the time my inventory was stuffed with common gear, I was already standing right in front of the first boss. It was a massive bat hanging upside down from the ceiling of the crypt. Vampire Bat, Silver Grade, Level 10. Health, 35,000. Attack, 1,500 plus 300. Defense, 800. Skills, Sinister Sonic Wave, Swift Dive, Call the Swarm, and Life Drain. Description: the pet of the Vampire Baron. It loves nothing more than feeding on human brains. I took a deep breath. The moment it attacked, I dissolved into a shadow and bolted. Right where I had been standing, a dark silhouette dove down with violent force, smashing cracks into the hard stone floor. Amidst the swirling dust, the vampire bat shook its head, letting out an angry screech. It was incredibly fast, yet it still failed to pin me down. This fight wasn't going to be easy. I knew very well that I was only in stealth, not concretely dissolved into the void. If the enemy's attack connected, I would still take damage. The most troublesome part about this vampire bat was its speed. It was insanely fast. If I hadn't bolted immediately, I would have been crushed to pieces, just like the floor. But dodging the first strike didn't mean I was out of the woods. Having missed its mark, the vampire bat instantly shifted its strategy. Its abdomen puffed up, and it opened its jaws, unleashing a piercing shriek. An invisible shockwave rippled outward in a wide arc, shattering the stones in front of it into fine powder. It wasn't hard to imagine. If I took a hit like that head on, even a fully geared, heavily armored player would be in world of hurt, let alone a squishy target like me. The vampire bat stared at the ruins in front of it, finding no sign of the intruder's corpse. It instantly realized the enemy was no longer there. With a sharp flap of its wings, it retreated back to the tomb ceiling. Its blood-red eyes scanned the area restlessly. Crouching in the shadows, My expression grew serious, as expected of a nightmare difficulty boss.
Its counterattacks are relentless, one after another, leaving absolutely zero room for error. An ordinary assassin probably wouldn't even survive the first wave of attacks.
Too bad for him. He's up against me. The moment the cooldown on my Shadow Stride ended,
I made my move again. Time-L, the anytime, and immediately took off running once more.
boom! The vampire bat swooped down,
Unleashing another sinister screech.
Several massive boulders were blasted into tiny fragments.
But I remained completely unscathed. I had already slipped into another corner, waiting for my skill cooldown. Even for a silver grade boss, without any stealth detecting abilities, it doesn't stand a chance of finding me. Of course, this is also because my Shadow Stride has already evolved to bronze grade.
If it were still at the basic common grade,
With its keen perception,
the vampire bat could have at least locked onto my general location.
and braced itself. But now, all I can say is, sorry buddy, your time is up.
After taking a few more of my throwing daggers,
The vampire bat's health plummeted below 50%.
it raged. It let out a piercing screech, and countless bats came swarming out of the surrounding tomb chambers,
Circling wildly in the air.
This is the vampire bat's second phase, summoning a massive swarm to overwhelm the player. The real headache is that these minion bats have a life heal effect on their attacks. If a player can't clear them out quickly,
They'll end up in the embarrassing spot where the boss heals faster than they can deal damage.
but for me, this phase is no different from the last. These minion bats are even slower than the boss.
They can't even touch me, let alone heal the boss.
3 of the boss's 4 skills are completely useless against me. And the final one, Life Siphon, is no different.
If even I can't target it, how could anyone else possibly break it out? So, his fate was sealed from the very beginning.
Boom! The vampire bat's health bars is completely wiped out. It crashes heavily down from the ceiling.
Slain level 10 silver grade boss, Vampire Bat. Obtained 20,000 experience points.
Experience cap has been locked.
Hunting time activated.
You have obtained 1 evolution point. Current points: 2.
As the Vampire Bat slams onto the ground,
The swarm of summoned minion bats instantly scatters and flees.
I walk over and scoop up the jocked loot. Vampiric Blade, silver grade. Attack power 300.
Agility, 15. Equipment requirement, level 10.
I equip it on the spot.
My attack power instantly spikes to 400, boosting my damage output by a massive chunk. Now, I have even more confidence to bring down the Vampire Baron.
I didn't expect the very first boss to drop exactly the weapon I needed.
With the special mode activated,
The Crimson Tomb has a total of 3 bosses. Even if each boss only drops a single piece of gear, I'll still walk away with 2 silver grade items. Alright, of my new weapon. I can't wait to test it out.
right on cue, another vampire thrall rushes over to meet its doom.
I raise my blade and slash down.
Minus 18,535. The vampire thrall is instantly wiped out.
These small fry stand absolutely zero chance against nearly 20,000 damage. After more than 10 minutes of absolute slaughter, I stand before the second boss. In this empty chamber, these 2 massive, menacing stone statues don't look dangerous at first glance. But I know that if a player foolishly walks up to them, they'll be ambushed by gargoyles. 2 silver grade gargoyles attacking at the same time is enough to give any player a real beating. But I simply aim my throwing daggers at the statues. Whoosh! Minus 9,268. Minus 9,268. 2 massive damage numbers pop up above their heads simultaneously. In the next instant, the eyes of both stone statues snap open. The wings on their backs flap violently as it lunged straight at me from both sides. And yet, a familiar scene plays out once more.
Aside from completely shattering the stone floor, the gargoyles' attacks fail to inflict a single point of damage on me.
Gargoyle Twins, silver grade.
Level 10. HP, 25,000. Attack, 1,000 plus 200. Defense, 2,000. Skills, Gale Surge, Charged Counterattack.
Think, the gatekeepers of the Vampire Baron. Description: the gatekeepers of the Vampire Baron. Connected in mind and soul, they will butcher any enemy who dares trespass. At first glance, their health bars don't look that high. But here is the catch. These 2 gargoyles share a single health pool. Any damage dealt to one of them gets split right down the middle and transferred to the other. In other words, this boss actually has a massive total health pool of 500,000 HP.
And that is not all. The Gargoyle Twins are the ultimate nightmare for physical classes. On top of their already extremely high base defense, they also have an extra 70% physical damage reduction. It is enough to drive any assassin or archer player to utter despair. If players form a mage squad and come here, they will just fall into another trap, because the third boss has a magic immunity shield. At level 10, player stats are already pretty low to begin with, and the last two bosses are specifically designed to counter different classes. Casual players naturally suffered a lot here, but against me, the Gargoyle Twins, who drive ordinary physical classes to despair, are no different from any ordinary boss. While I was dodging their attacks, my Lacerate skill began to show its true power. The damage numbers popping up over the Gargoyle Twins' heads added up to over 1,000. With the buff from my Sniper God talent, the Lacerate damage completely ignored their defense. Even though my defense isn't particularly high, it is more than enough. Connected in mind, the Gargoyle Twins could both feel each other's sheer shock. The defense they were so proud of seemed to completely vanish in front of this enemy. Losing nearly 20,000 health points in just a single round of attacks, it would only take a little over 20 rounds for their health bars to be completely drained. The Gargoyle Twins flew up into the air, flapped their wings to whip up a violent storm. It swept through the room in a curved path, destroying everything. This was the boss's skill. Tempest Surge, which conjures devastating tornadoes and deals continuous damage over time. And since they are twins, two of them would appear every single time, putting the player's positioning and movement to the ultimate test. But my speed is incredibly fast, let alone two tornadoes. Even 10 to 20 of them would be absolutely nothing to me. In the end, after taking dozens of flying daggers, the Gargoyle Twins finally turned back into stone, and then they shattered into a million pieces. Defeating the level 10 silver grade boss, the Gargoyle Twins earned me 20,000 experience points. Hunting season activated. You have gained 2 evolution points. Current total, 4. The Gargoyle Twins were a real pain to kill. Like, since there were 2 of them, the evolution points I got were absolutely massive. I walked over and looted the gear they dropped. Silver grade Gargoyle Bracers. 100 defense, 800 health, 20 strength. The equip requirement is level 10, and it requires over 60 strength. I used a Stone of Might before to add 20 points of strength. I'm still just a tiny bit short of equipping these bracers, unless I dump all my stat points from the next level up into strength. Whatever. I'll just hold on to it for now. After stashing the gear, I kept heading forward. Once I clear the third boss, I'll finally get to face the hidden boss, the Vampire Baron. But it seems the Baron is even more impatient than I am. His laughter echoed once again, reverberating through the entire tomb. Very well, intruder. Your strength actually gives me something to look forward to. Come to my side, and I shall grant you eternal life. The second I heard that, I knew a cutscene was triggering. Normally, the Vampire Baron is completely hostile to players who disturb his slumber. But there are exceptions. For someone with off-the-charts combat power like me, he'll offer a choice, using immortality as bait, to lure players into joining the vampire faction. Not only can you get the hidden bloodline class, but you also get an incredibly long lifespan. These perks are way better than what the village chief offered. I seriously suspect that old village chief took a massive cut under the table. Otherwise, why would the chief only give raw attributes, while the Baron is offering a hidden class advancement and eternal life? I swear, I cannot stand these greedy middleman scammers. Filled with righteous indignation, I decided to completely expose the village chief's true colors. After clearing out all the mobs along the way, but picking up a few pieces of common gear, I finally arrived at the deepest part of the Scarlet Tomb. Inside was a burial chamber, adorned with exquisite murals, with a pile of treasure stacked in the corner. The place was draped in thick cobwebs. It looked like no one had set foot here in ages. Right in the center of the tomb chamber, dozens of heavy chains hung down from the corners of the ceiling, suspending a massive bronze coffin right in mid-air. With a loud rumble,
The moment I stepped into the chamber,
the heavy stone door at the entrance slammed shut behind me, following a screeching sound of metal scraping against metal. The heavy light of the bronze coffin was thrown open. Inside, a figure dressed in an exquisite formal suit woke up and slowly sat up. Ryan the Resurrected. Silver tier boss. Health, 600,000. Attack, 1,600 plus 320. Defense, 1,600. Skills, Frenzied Blades, Mana Shield, Phantom Glide. Description, dinner time. You have awakened the master of this tomb. Are you ready to face his wrath? Man, this description is seriously misleading. Others might not know the truth, but I know exactly what is going on. This Ryan is actually just the butler to a vampire baron. His sleeping in a bronze coffin is nothing more than a stalling tactic to cover up the baron's existence. Otherwise, with Ryan's lowly status, how could he ever afford to sleep in such a high-end vampire coffin? As I was thinking, Ryan fully awakened. He leaped down from the coffin, landing firmly on the ground. His sinister, cold glare swept across the chamber. A rogue, I hid in the shadows, holding back,
and waiting. Ryan is just like the previous two bosses,
with incredibly high perception. And because of his phantom glide skill,
he can instantly teleport to another location,
seamlessly following up with frenzied blades to deal massive area of effect damage.
To kill a boss like this,
You need to use a bit of strategy.
lucky for me, I know exactly what to do. The key lies right next to those stone pillars. If a player wants to solo Ryan, they must make smart use of this ring of pillars.
I clept over to one of the pillars,
Raising my hand to throw a dagger. Minus 18,535, a weak point strike. Even though he has turned into an undead, Ryan still has weaknesses.
It's just that this weakness isn't his head.
Instead, it is the blood deep inside their chest cavity. The absolute core weakness of all vampires. When you are facing off against vampires, if you want to kill them for good, simply slaying them isn't enough. You have to destroy both their physical body and their blood core together. Even after getting hit by me, Woolzer didn't show a single hint of panic. Instead, he instantly triggered his skill. Moving so fast, I could barely track him. In the blink of an eye, he lunged right in front of me.
By the time I could see clearly again,
2 bone daggers had already appeared in his hands, slashing at me like a madman. With a deafening crash, shattered stones sprayed everywhere. A massive chunk was instantly sheared off the 1-meter wide stone pillar next to me.
Another 2 hits, and it'll probably snap right in half.
This is exactly what makes soloing Woolzer so incredibly annoying. There are 12 stone pillars in this tomb chamber, and each one can only take 3 hits from his frenzied blades. Once all the pillars are destroyed, I'll be completely exposed to his deadly blades. With my current level 10 stats, even with top-tier gear, I wouldn't last more than a few hits. Squizzy Casses would get one shot instantly. Luckily, the cooldown for Woolzer's Phantom Shift and Frenzied Blades combo is about 15 seconds. This gives me the perfect window to wait for my Shadow Stride to come off cooldown. I strike again, and Woolzer dodges once more, unleashing a sweep of flashing blades, chipping the stone pillars and sending debris flying everywhere. I take the opportunity to slip behind another pillar, staring intently at the twin daggers in his hands. My heart races with excitement. This is a dual blade set. Not only are the base stats insanely high, but it also has a set bonus. Combined, they could easily rival gold grade gear. Once a player completes their first class advancement, class restrictions slowly start to lift. For instance, after advancing at level 10, an assassin can dual-wield weapons. Even though the offhand weapon only grants 70% of its stats, that's still incredibly overpowered. If only I could get my hands on this set. Raising my hand, I fling another throwing dagger. Woolzer instantly counters with Phantom Shift into Frenzied Blades, but this combo does absolutely nothing to me. He doesn't rush in for the kill. Instead, he stopped, as if he were contemplating something. Then, he slowly spoke. "Intruder,
your strength has truly impressed me.
let's see how you handle this." My heart sank. I knew he was about to call for backup. "Come, my brothers and sisters. Dinner is served." Ozir called out. Several shadowy figures quickly materialized around him. Headmaid Sophia, a bronze tier minibus. Garner Balu, another bronze tier, the Butcher, and 2 other bronze tiers. The second phase of this bronze tier boss fight was basically one giant unfair gang up. It was also the trickiest phase of the fight against Jersey. The moment the cooldown for Shadow Walk ended, I immediately hurled a throwing knife right at Jurs. If you want to take down the gang, you have to take out the leader first, as long as I killed him first. The rest of the minibosses would naturally vanish. With him, there was no need to waste my damage on them. The instant I leaped into the air, Uther had already lunged right in front of me. His 4 minions closed in at the exact same time. They unleashed their skills, completely engulfing the spot where I had just been standing. But my tactics were purely hit and run anyway. I'd strike and immediately retreat, never giving them a single chance to touch me. Ray roared, in absolute fury, but there wasn't a damn thing he could do to me. As time ticked away, Jersey health bar steadily depleted. Under the combined onslaught of him and his lackeys, the stone pillars in the tomb chamber began to shatter, one by one. Fortunately, I had more than enough time to finish him off before all the pillars crumbled. "Lord Yurzin, I have failed you." Huda let out a long, weary sigh, his body collapsing limply to the ground. The 4 mini-bosses he had summoned froze right where they stood. Their figures began to fade, becoming translucent, and before long, they completely vanished.
Ding! You have defeated the level 10 silver tier bossers and gained 20,000 experience points.
Just as the system notification popped up, my gaze was instantly drawn to 2 glowing loot orbs on the ground. They were 2 pieces of gear,
And both of their icons showed weapons.
I couldn't help but curl my lips. Could I really have gotten a set piece on my very first kill? Filled with anticipation, I stepped forward and scooped up all the loot. Eviscerating Dagger, Main Hand, Silver Grade. Attack Power, 300, Agility 15. And its offhand counterpart, the Bloodletting Stiletto. Also Silver Grade, with an attack power of 300. Agility 15, required level 10. Honestly, these base stats are pretty mediocre.
The attributes are almost identical to the frostbound blade I'm currently using. But the real game changer here is the set bonus. And it is exactly because of this bonus that these blades can actually go toe-to-toe with gold-grade gear. 2-piece set effect grants an extra 200 attack power and unlocks Frenzied Dash. Instantly dash toward a target location while unleashing a blade storm that deals 200 damage to all enemies in your path. Quick salve. 30 seconds. Not only does it boost your attack, but it also gives you an incredibly powerful gap closer. This is Bolzer's signature killer combo, Phase Shift plus Frenzied Blades. It's an active effect that only unlocks once you've assembled both, eviscerating daggers, making this set practically irreplaceable in the early game. This Phase Dash effect is exactly what I've been eyeing. Sure, I can constantly rely on Shadow Walk to get around, but if an opponent is prepared for it and preemptively spams area of effect skills right where I'm about to appear. As long as they have enough skills, and the radius is wide enough, they can completely pin me down with raw damage alone. These eviscerating daggers are one of my few options right now to secure another reliable mobility skill. Just then, a low, menacing chuckle echoed from the depths of the tomb. You actually defeated Volzer? Your strength truly surprises me. Come to my side. Let us embrace eternal life. Together. A system notification flashed on my screen. Hidden side best triggered. A crucial choice.
Option 1. Slay the Vampire Baron. Quest reward. None. Option 2. Accept the Baron's proposal.
Quest reward. Unlock the hidden class Scarlet Assassin, tailored to your primary stats, and gain an additional 300 years of lifespan. The second option is obviously far better than the first. It's precisely because of this that the many clueless players end up choosing to side with the Vampire Baron. But I know all too well that behind these flashy rewards lies a trap leading straight to the abyss. I let out a cold sneer. Hey, Baron, wash your neck and wait to die. Selection confirmed. The Vampire Baron is now your sworn enemy. A fight to the death has begun. The notification flashed and vanished. I didn't care in the slightest. I walked straight over to the corner of the tomb and kicked aside the treasures scattered across the floor, exposing the stone tiles underneath. I gently stepped onto one of them. The very next second, the heavy grinding of mechanism echoed from behind the stone wall. Clank! The massive chain suspending the bronze coffin began to loosen. Then, the entire coffin crashed down with a deafening thud, smashing a bottomless crater straight through the floor. Eerie wails rose from the dark depths of the pit, along with furious curses and the unsettling sound of sloshing liquid. The stench of blood was so thick, it was absolutely suffocating. Down there lies the blood pool, where the Vampire Baron hides. I stared down into the pitch-black opening, quickly spotted a path down, and leaped straight in. Falling dozens of meters, I finally stuck a perfect landing. Before me lay a single corridor leading to a cavern glowing with a sinister, dark red light. The Baron's voice, thick with suppressed rage, echoed from within. Intruder, this place shall be your grave. I will use your very blood to refill this nearly dried-up blood pool. Hearing inside from behind the stone wall, the chamber looked much like a tomb, only far more sinister. The obsidian floor was pristine, without a single speck of dust. In the center sat a massive blood pool, its dark red waters churning and bubbling. By the edge of the pool, the Vampire Baron lounged comfortably, an expression of pure ecstasy on his face. Lying prone beside him was the Wolf King Gurna, who had already been converted into an undead wolf. Now, looking at the Baron's stats, Vampire Baron, Gold Tier, Level 15, HP 1,500,000, Attack 6,000, Defense 4,000, Skills, Scarlet Contract, Life Conversion, Crimson Aegis, Blood Tide, and Toxic Blood Plague. Description: a Vampire Baron newly awakened from a deep slumber. Due to his centuries of sleep, his power has inevitably declined. Yet he remains an absolute force to be reckoned with. It is not too late to surrender to him. And next, the Resurrected Wolf King, Silver Tier, Level 10, HP 350,000, Attack 1,500, Defense 1,200, Skills, Rabies, Fatal Bite, and Call of the Wild. Description: the Wolf King who once dared to intrude upon the Baron's slumbering grounds was resurrected by vampire magic after death, turned into a mindless puppet, now loyally guarding his former enemy. Two undead foes, each more troublesome than the last, especially the Baron. His HP is a staggering 1,500,000. If I didn't have my Titan talent, I'd probably have to hack away at this Vampire Baron for hours, even if he just stood there and let me. That is exactly why it took forever for players to actually take down this boss after he was first discovered. His stats are absolutely terrifying, and his level even breaks past the starter village cap, reaching level 15. And keep in mind, this is after he's been asleep for way too long, with most of his power completely drained. So, I decide to take out the Wolf King first. Once resurrected, the Wolf King isn't just some summoned minion, meaning even if the Baron dies first, this beast won't just vanish. On top of that, he's insanely fast. If I let him camp my position, I'm going to be in deep trouble. Luckily, the Wolf King's health pool isn't that high. With that in mind, I flick my wrist and send a throwing knife flying.
The Wolf King lets out a furious howl. Baron and Gurner's brow furrows in irritation, but neither of them makes another move.
The Baron doesn't even bother to stand up from his pool of blood.
Just as I expected. This sudden awakening wasn't part of the Baron's plan at all.
He was supposed to sleep for another 100 years. But this uninvited guest, the Wolf King, completely ruined his plans. And because of that, he's nowhere near his peak condition right now. As the Wolf King's health keeps plummeting, Baron Gurner's face grows darker by the second. His eyes flush a deep crimson red, locking his glare dead on me. Long ago, there was an old saying among the vampires: mind the master before you strike his hound. He was the one who resurrected the Wolf King.
And now some outsider is thrashing it so hard it can't even fight back.
As its master, he's completely losing face. The Baron has clearly decided to finish me off himself. The moment the Wolf King's health drops below 50%, the Baron roars, "Enough!" With that, he slams his arm down into the blood pool. Countless droplets of blood instantly erupt into the air, shooting outward in every direction like a volley of bullets. Rocks explode off the cave walls as they're bombarded, an impact absolutely deafening. But the split second his hand moved, I activated Shadow Step, flashing straight to the edge of the cave entrance. Using the wall as cover, I barely managed to dodge the lethal barrage. Finally catching its breath, the Wolf King scurries over to the Baron's side, lower its head with a soft whimper. The Baron taps his finger, sending crimson orb of light, sinking straight into the Wolf King's body. Instantly, the beast lets out an excited, rejuvenated roar. Its health bars instantly shoots back up by 20%. I curse cheater under my breath, but I can only watch helplessly. This is the Baron's skill: life transfer.
All I can do is keep fighting. Thankfully, the Baron can't spam this skill forever.
As long as my damage output is high enough, I can brute force the revived Wolf King to death. When the Wolf King's health drops to 15%, it flees back to the Baron once again. Mounted on his dark steed, the Baron sneers, "Useless trash." But he still casts life transfer anyway, restoring another 20% of the Wolf King's health. But it's all in vain. The Wolf King won't survive long enough to get a third heal. But the bad news is, Baron Gurner's withered body is swelling with power again. He's about to step out of the blood pool. The blood pool surges violently. Leaping out, the Baron turns into a crimson phantom, hovering in midair. He glares down at his surroundings, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. My turn.
Blood tide!
Centered around the Baron, over a dozen crimson torrents burst outward in all directions. Both the stone walls and the obsidian floor are sliced apart like butter under a hot knife. Even though I can't see the damage numbers, I know this move easily deals at least 10,000 damage. If ordinary players don't have enough survival skills, they get wiped out in the very first wave. Naturally, my only option is to play it safe for now. I retreat outside the tomb chamber, biding my time to strike again. Once Shadow Walk finishes its cooldown, I dash back inside. I flick my wrist, throwing a flying dagger, and immediately activate Shadow Walk to fall back. The Wolf King lets out a final dying howl, but the Baron has already locked his eyes onto me. Gotcha. As he speaks, he slams down a whip of blood onto the ground, sending up plumes of white smoke. Even the obsidian floor is corroded into a deep crater. If that had hit me, I'd probably be dead on the spot. Placid, luckily I managed to dodge the strike, relying on my high agility. The Baron freezes for a fraction of a second, stunned. I didn't expect you to actually dodge that. You're stronger than you look, he got, riving it in a deep voice. Will definitely become a grave threat to our clan in the future. Too bad. You're going to die right here today. Dark deathmatch. Pitch black energy, dark as ink, erupted from his body, quickly, swallowing the entire underground cavern. System. Ding. The Longuna has activated his special skill, Dark Deathmatch. All escape routes have been completely sealed. This battle will not end until one side is dead. Warning. If you die during the Dark Deathmatch, your character will be permanently deleted. My chest tightened. I can't believe he has a move like this. In my past life, I never heard of Baron Gurner having this skill. To think he could actually force a character deletion? This is absolutely ridiculous. What the hell went wrong? Is it the butterfly effect from my rebirth? Or is it a hidden rule of the game itself? Or did my god-tier talent make those high and mighty beings notice this world ahead of schedule? I quickly forced those thoughts out of my head. Dark Deathmatch has already been activated, and the energy is spreading incredibly fast. It engulfed me in the blink of an eye. It's too late to back out now. The odds look completely stacked against me, but I can see a path to victory. And that is, Baron Gurner has no way of breaking my shadow stealth. A smirk slowly crept onto my face.
Your stats might be insane,
But my playstyle is completely unbeatable. With that, I hurled a throwing dagger straight at the dying Wolf King.
the plan remains the same. Take out the menu first, then wear down the boss.
Seeing that I didn't beg for mercy out of fear,
But instead, kept attacking his pet.
the Baron flew into a violent rage.
The Wolf King felt incredibly wronged. It couldn't even understand why it was always the one taking the beating.
After a few quick slashes,
The Fartkin's health bars was completely depleted, and it collapsed heavily to the ground, showering the floor with a massive pile of loot. But I didn't have a single second to pick it up, because the Baron's blood sword was already coming right for me. His senses are incredibly sharp. Even though I haven't revealed myself, he'd still blindly spam his skills in my general direction.
it's only been a few minutes since he stepped out of that blood pool.
The once smooth obsidian floor is already heavily corroded and pitted. The pungent stench is so overwhelming I can barely breathe. Now that the Wolf King is out of the picture, I turn my focus back to Baron Gurna, keeping my eyes locked right on his fingers. If I remember correctly, his loot table includes a storage ring. That's exactly what I need to solve my inventory space issue. I really hope it drops. Even though Baron Gurna can't see me, he can definitely feel my gaze. He raises his right hand and sneers. Greedy bastard. You want my family heirloom? Then pay for it with your life in blood.
As the residual waves of the tide surge, blood blasts lay waste to the surroundings once more.
Trunks of rubble rain down from above, prompting me to look up at the ceiling.
If he keeps blasting the place like this underground crypt is going to collapse.
Without hesitation, I hurl my throwing daggers.
The hit,
Shaves off nearly 20,000 points of damage from the Baron.
the shock on Baron Gurna's face is impossible to hide. He gasps out, "Immortal? How could you possibly possess this kind of power?"
He's not talking about my sniper god talent, but actual, true damage.
Even among the foreign races, this kind of power is extremely rare. And on the vampire's side, and only those at the king rank or above could ever hope to master it. Baron Gurna becomes more certain than ever.
He must eliminate this intruder.
But speaking of which, this intruder's level is clearly low. So why are his shadow techniques so incredibly advanced, leaving absolutely no openings for him to exploit? Suddenly, a realization flashes through the Baron's mind. The power of shadow! After a brief moment of shock, he grows even more thrilled. To think there'd be an extra harvest! If I kill you and devour every bit of your flesh and blood, I will surely obtain the power of shadow. By then, I will be the absolute ruler of the vampire race.
Minus 18,535. Weak point strike. This massive burst of damage instantly shatters the Baron's delusions.
He suddenly realizes that he might have taken this battle way too lightly. Can an intruder who commands both true damage and the power of shadow really be killed by his hands? Is the Baron finally losing his confidence? Even his attacks are starting to hesitate. I have no idea what's going through his head right now, but his slower attacks are definitely working in my favor.
When his health dropped to 75%,
The Baron was still pretending like it was nothing, but when it hit 30%, he finally started to panic, though he still desperately clung to the delusion that he was in control. By the time his health dwindled to just 10%, its poker face completely shattered. His eyes darted around frantically, clearly searching for an escape route. Too bad for him. The dark death match he initiated himself hasn't ended yet. He literally locked himself in with no way out, realizing he was cornered. The Baron finally swallowed his pride and said, "Invader, your strength has earned my respect.
I am willing to share the secrets of eternal life with you.
System prompt. You've activated the hidden quest, the Cornered Beast. Option 1. Kill the Vampire Baron. Quest reward. Option 5. Option 2. Accept the Baron's pro. Custo. All. Quest reward. Receive the Baron's knighthood. Obtaining the Scarlet Knight title. And 500 years of bonus lifespan. How unoriginal. Of course I'm sticking to my original choice. With a flick of my wrist, I fling a throwing knife, instantly shattering the Baron's delusion. Think, trying to beg for mercy at this point? Too late. Having his offer rejected once more, the Baron flies into a humiliated rage and screams, "Just you wait! My people will tear your world to the ground." I don't even bother to respond. The second my skill comes off cool them, I throw another knife to finish him off. Baron Gurna collapses to the ground, filled with bitter resentment and regret, and draws his final breath. As he dies, a massive pile of glittering starlit loot bursts forth, glowing so brightly it almost blinds me. Time to pack it all up. After all, this is loot dropped by a gold-grade boss. The only downside is that I can't equip any of it yet. At that moment, system notifications start chiming endlessly. Ding! You have defeated the level 15 gold-grade boss, Baron Gurna, gaining 50,000 experience points. System announcement. This kill is a server first. An extra reward of 100 free attribute points? The second I saw this reward, I didn't even hesitate.
I dumped every single free attribute point straight into agility. My agility instantly skyrocketed to 350 once I complete my class advancement and unlock dual weeding and equip my backup dual blades. My attack power will shoot up by another few hundred points. Just thinking about it makes me grin from ear to ear. As for those 10 skill points, I'll save them for now. I'm about to head back to the novice village to turn in my quest and then head to the main city for my class advancement. Once that's done, I'll unlock some new skills.
If there's a good one, I can use those skill points to level it up. I walked over to the corpse of the giant wolf king
And put the loot into my inventory, piece by piece.
I also hacked off its head and stuffed it in there too.
I didn't forget the Baron's blood either. This is the crucial piece of evidence to expose the village chief's true colors. By the time I finished all of this, the blood in the pool had completely drained, revealing a magic circle at the bottom. It was a teleportation circle to leave this place, which would take me straight back to an abandoned tomb in the novice village. But I wasn't in a rush to head back. I remember it clearly. If a player teleports back through this magic circle without any vampire aura on them, they'll trigger the village chief's trap and get ambushed by a wave of wraiths. To be safe, I decided to swap out some of my gear to boost my health first. I went through hell to kill that Baron, so I'm not about to let some cheap trick by the village chief take me down at the finish line. Unfortunately, the gear dropped by the Baron requires level 15,
and I can't equip it yet.
With that in mind, I turned my attention to the loot dropped by the Wolf King. The Wolf King's cloak, silver tier, finesse, 50, health, 800, agility, 20, required level, 10. The stats on this cloak lean heavily toward agility,
Which is absolutely perfect for my build. Next was the Wolf King's greaves, silver tier.
defense, 100, health, 1000, agility, 10, required level, 10. Oh, talk about good luck. Once I equipped both of these, my health pool shot way up, and my agility soared right along with it. Not bad. This health regen will definitely give me more confidence. The last piece of equipment is actually an item. Wolfgang's blood. Silver grade. Using it permanently increases agility by 15 points. Stat boosting items like this are my absolute favorite. Without a second thought, I immediately used it.
Done sorting through the Wolf King's loot,
I turned my gaze toward a few gold glowing items sitting in my inventory. The very first item made my eyes widen instantly. A gray ring. A gold grade ring that adds 100 inventory slots with 0 level requirements. Items placed inside the storage space won't drop upon death. I can't believe a storage ring actually dropped. Even though this thing doesn't boost any stats, it can expand my inventory capacity. This is something countless players can only dream of having. Its utility is absolutely insane. Plus, whatever you put inside won't drop. So even if I get killed by someone, I won't have to worry about losing my gear. This is an absolute god tier item.
grinning from year to year. I slid the ring onto my finger and moved on to check the next few pieces of equipment.
Too bad I couldn't use any of the others. Until I saw the very last loot drop. I froze completely. Toxic blood plague.
A gold grade passive skill.
Venomous blood will corrode enemies' wounds, dealing 40% of attack power or magic damage per second,
Plus an additional 100 wound damage.
lasting for 5 seconds.
If the target dies during this duration,
The toxic blood plague will spread to other enemies within 10 meters. What on earth am I looking at? In my past life, this was a legendary miracle called the source of all poisons by countless players. This is the ultimate tool for farming mobs. As long as a single mob dies, the damage just chain explodes outward. If paired with an IOE skill, my solo leveling speed would be ridiculously fast. Even if I don't have an AoE skill right now, it's fine. I can just rely on my Shadow Dagger for now. It'll get the job done. And Vian is already doing his best to help me find a matching skill. I estimate we'll have news within 3 days at most. When that time comes, I'll transform from a ranged assassin into a ranged mage assassin. By then, all I'll have to do is throw a single skill into a crowd of mobs, and my EXP will absolutely skyrocket. Just thinking about that scene. Even I can feel my blood pumping right now. I look back at the teleportation array inside the pool of blood.
time to head back. I step onto the array.
And with a flash of light, I vanish instantly. At almost the exact same time, the chief of Nova's Village 9527 shudders violently. His heart starts pounding in absolute panic. The teleportation circle set up by his master has been activated, but it's not even close to the agreed upon time. And thinking back to his master's furious roar from earlier, the chief gets a terrible sinking feeling in his gut. Meanwhile, the second I teleport into the wooden cabin, translucent wraith lunges, slashing its sharp claws wildly at the empty air. Judging by its attack path, it didn't even notice me. It was just acting according to its pre-programmed settings. It'll immediately attack anyone who doesn't carry the aura of the Blood Clan. I dodge it effortlessly,
And with a quick counterslash, I instantly one-shot it.
then I deactivate my stealth mode and walk out of the cabin
bold as brass. But after only 2 steps,
The outside is completely packed with players. Holy crap, it's 567! Those words spread through the entire novice village like wildfire.
countless players drop whatever they're doing and rush over here like madmen.
Just to get a glimpse of the legend, who has only ever appeared in the server announcements. Watching the massive crowd grow, a thought strikes me. I raise my voice and say, I know you guys are excited, but just calm down for a second.
Anyone interested in doing a hidden quest with me?
If anyone else had said that, 80% of the players here would have laughed in their face. But the one speaking is 567, which changes everything. 567,
Where is this quest you're talking about?
can we take it right now?
If we follow you and end up with nothing, won't we be completely ripped off?
Hearing this barrage of questions,
I simply wave my hand. Too many questions. I don't have time to answer them all.
I'm heading out for the quest now.
If you're in, follow me.
With that, I squeeze through the crowd and head towards the village chief.
The other players wanted to keep pressing for answers,
But realizing they had no chance,
could only swarm behind me.
Before long, we all arrived at the village chief's doorstep.
The chief was already standing there, waiting, flanked like a squad of hostile guards, glaring at us like prey. The moment I showed up, the chief caught the scent on me.
it was the lingering malice left behind by his master's death.
In an instant, the chief realized everything. His master had been killed by the very outsider standing right in front of him. This man reeks of evil. Seize him! The village chief raised his hand and pointed straight at me, his voice cold and lethal. Hearing this, the guards instantly raised their blades and shields and started closing in on me.